Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the What If guy, back with another fanfiction. This is the movie of What If Issei Fell in Love with Xenovia. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. There is a small blue floating rock, swirling and whirling around a pretty sizable burning gas, hopefully avoiding any asteroids and other astronomical objects. It is a planet named Earth. For a while it was named Gaia by the Greeks, and believed to be Terra by the Romans. In truth, nobody knows for sure, but many believed it should be called Gaia. Especially since other planets in the solar system are named after the Greek gods, and many believed and have depicted Earth as a girl conscious about her flat chest. In many stories, humans are the predominant species, while the supernatural folks hid themselves from civilization, conspiring and occasionally helping the humans from the dark. This is no such story. Earth is the home of various sentient beings, and humans are simply one of the many races, as well as one of the most endangered species. Not, mind you, because they have reproduction problems or hunted down like wild dogs. Oh, they're very healthy and sex-driven, alright. The problem is that they are the ones whose DNA can mingle with other species without side effects. Humans, so to speak, are the universal recipient for genes. And it doesn't help that they are easily attracted by physical appearance and is a curious sapiens in general. I am one of them. My name is Hyoudou Issei. Issei Hyoudou if I'm not Japanese. But I am Japanese and therefore I'm inclined to pronounce my name backwards. I don't know why I put my family name in front of my surname, but us Japanese have pretty quirky habits compared to, well, most countries actually. People say it's tradition and our culture, but I think it's because of the nukes. We're also obsessed with mini markets and vending machines. Anything you can think of and is the correct size, you'll probably find a vending machine dispensing that item. I'm not even talking about snacks or canned drinks. Need emergency underwear? Find the vending machine. You want a model figurine? Find that vending machine. You're germophobic and your surgical mask got stolen or torn. Head to a vending machine. Need some flour to impress someone or pretend you have a girlfriend? There's a flour vending machine. Need a shot of alcohol because someone find out your girlfriend is imaginary? Well, lucky you, we have a sake shot dispenser vending machine. Anyway, you're probably wondering why so many of them, and the answer is pretty simple. We're workaholics. By we, I mean the white or blue-collar workers and my countrymen in general. We don't like to waste too much time outside of work. We're apparently a dying breed as well. I can't blame anyone though. I mean, have you seen a devil? Have you seen a vampire? Have you seen a cute fox girl with big bushy tails and furry ears that you can't help but want to give them a poke? Even in the movies, they're never ugly. Not even in comic books they are ever drawn ugly, because it's the plain truth. They're really fucking hot, yo. Like, smoking hot level of hot. You take one look at them and your eyes might be set on fire. You might think it's great, but when everyone's looking like they are in showbiz, airplane hostess, or a butler from those shoujo manga, you start to really lose sense of actual beauty. When everyone's pretty, nobody's pretty. Shit like that. Nah, I'm just messing with ya. I'd bang any of them. You probably would too if ever given the chance. But the major, glaring problem is that they probably don't want to do you. I don't even need to exist in your world to know that. Right, moving along with the story. I'm legally 20, and I'm in the last year of my high school at Kuoh High. Now before you start making assumptions like, oh, this guy failed 3 times. What a fucking moron. I don't. I never failed or held back a year. I kinda am an idiot. I think it's because of this one time I hit my head on a swing when I was a kid, but that's not the point. There's 4 years of high school education. 6 years in elementary, 3 years mid as per usual, then 4 years of high school where reality starts to set in, and you begin to wonder if you're ever going to spend your life not studying or working. Real spooky stuff, I know. You don't normally start first grade elementary until you're 5 or 6, or you're 4 but your brain is liquid. I happened to start at 7 because when I was a kid, someone could cough or sneeze from a mile away and I'd be bedridden because I caught their cold. Yes, I was that weak. My parents were legitimately scared for my life. I think they had a discussion about making me wear hazmat suits this one time. Or stuck me inside one of those gigantic hamster balls except for people. I got better though. Thankfully enough. Who'd want to be stuck in a glass ball? And I rarely got sick. Sure, I had to drink a lot of vitamins and exercise weekly, but at least I don't pass out every 5 seconds anymore. I'm not built to. I'm still pretty lanky. But mess with me and I'll probably pull your pants down, steal your wallet, and run away. Well, I'm disinclined to resort to violence. Make love, not war. I haven't made love yet, but I sure as hell ain't gonna start a war, and I'm not paying any charges for assault anytime soon either. This world might be run by devils and fallen angels, but laws still exist, and they take this kind of thing very seriously. I think there used to be a war very long time ago, but they settled their differences and worked together to keep Earth a relatively nice place to live. Angels exist too, but they're pretty shy. Q2. Do you know they use their wings to cover their face not to look mythical but because they're embarrassed? Ahem, what's the reason for the extended year in high school? Well, there's an extra curriculum where you're taught learn how to exist. No, I'm serious. Starting from the 3rd or 1st year as a senior, you'll be taught how to drive a car, a bike, why becoming a bank robber is not a wise career path, why taxes are important and aren't actually used to fill up corrupt politicians' pockets, the height limit you're allowed to fly in if you have wings, the speed limit if you can run quicker than a horse. Basically rules and actual meaningful life lessons you'd want to know if you want to function properly as an adult. And then you enter a uni, or skip and go straight to work, or continue your family's business, or just retire because your family is rich. I ain't rich and I don't have a family business, and I'm not sure if I want to enter a uni or go straight to work. My dad's a general manager of an elementary school in my hometown, which is here, in Kuoh Town. He earns enough so that my mom can be a traditional yet happy housewife that occasionally helps a nearby bakery if she got too bored or to be not as upset about the latest episode of her Korean drama. I live in an apartment. Nothing too fancy, but not exactly all too modest either because I'm an only son and yes, I am loved by my parents and they refused to let me live in a dumpster and covered half my rent, which wasn't that much to begin with. Yay me. Woo for good parenting and cheap affordable living spaces. Why did I move out? Well, other than me wanting to try and live independently and see if I can take care of myself, I do value privacy. The direct translation is, I don't want my mom snooping around and finding things I don't want her to find when she's cleaning my room. Such as evidence of my poor financial decision that has taken the form of a variety of merchandise with cute anime girls on it, bottles of alcohol with cute anime girls on it, or a padded mouse pad with a cute anime girl on it, posters of a cute idol that I've sold for mint because it was no longer in production, or my box of condoms that doesn't have a cute anime girl on it, that I never get to use anyway. I just wanted to brag I get the sex whenever my friends came over, alright? They sniffed out my bullshit anyway because I was a loser during my first high school year. But since then, on my birthday they always get me a pack to replace the old one as a running joke. Dickheads. But hey, free yearly condoms I can sometimes sell to my classmates who evidently have a more active sex life than me. Yay for profit. Reject women, embrace currency. I probably won't get to use them anyway. I don't chase skirts as much as I did anymore. No, I'm not a sword swallower either. Don't you assume my sexuality. It's the 21st century. I can like pans and tell everyone and pat myself on the back for being brave. I'm 20 now, you see. I start to think less about segs and more about my future. How I can make money so I don't end up starving. What I'll do and what I want to become. My future is the thing that freaks me out the most, and I'm already in my second to last semester. That's less than a year before I have to make the big decision. Less than a year is all I have to give it another proper thinking and consideratino, which might seem to be a decent enough time, but a year passes in a blink when you worry over things. Unless it's Valentine's Day and you're the only one who is single from your friends. You'll be forced to hear them cheer and brag about their stupid chocolate, and then that day might feel like an eternity. I want chocolate too. Not just the obligatory friends one, damn it. But still, free handmade chocolate. Friends I have plenty, but a girlfriend I never have. I used to have 2 best friends in this school. Matsuda, another human guy I know from junior high who used to have an afro until he cut it bald to look like Vin Diesel, only to look like a monk instead, already has an idea of what he wants to be, a pro football athlete. He's even dropped out last semester to join a J-League team's youth academy. Something or other. I'm not a big fan of sports, but I'll probably watch him play on TV sometime in the future. He's not as fast or as strong as other species that seem to be born to be an athlete, but his technical skills and ability to read the game turns him into a wizard in that field. Motohama, a human kid I know from elementary school who can't see a damn thing without his glasses, is already accepted to Todai, our version of Harvard. Tokyo University for you overseas people. What's more impressive is he's already studying there, entirely skipping the last year of his high school. He'll probably be a doctor and find the cure to cancer or stupidity or something. Let's see if he ever cures his virginity. Dude's insanely smart, but he's a freak, I tell you. I mean, who the hell can measure a girl's proportions just by looking at them? He's not even supernaturally gifted or anything. Both his parents are Japanese human beings, but his ability is like the most unique I've seen from everyone else. And I'm in a school with devils and dragons. They're still my best friends, but we just don't meet up as often anymore. What with our different schedules and everything. We don't play online games as often either, but these things happen. It's called life, and sometimes, your friends pursue their own dreams and leave you eating their dust. Meanwhile, here I am eating their dust, wondering what the hell am I gonna be, or what I want to be. Hell, I don't even know what I can be. I do know I don't want to work an entire lifetime like my dad currently is doing, but I don't have the mind to start my own business either or the skills to be a freelance worker of whatever freelance works there are. I sure as hell can't draw anything more than stick figures, and even then they're still squiggly like I have chicken claws for fingers. I don't know how to play an instrument, and the only person that told me I have a great singing voice was my late grandmother, and she was already deaf. My friends often told me I could be a stand-up comedian, but I don't want to make jokes for a living. No offense, any stand-up comics that are reading this for whatever reason. I just don't have the mental creativity to come up with new jokes every week, and I can't be funny every second of every day. And audience expectations? Yikes, don't even get me started. I don't expect much from people, and I sure hope they expect just as much from me. You see, I'm one of those people who just doesn't seem to have any monetizable talent. Don't even say optimistic things like everyone has a talent, because I swear I will ram a brick to your mouth. Let me pity myself and leave me be. I want to mope a bit. Other than my dread of entering adulthood, things aren't so bad. Could have been better, could have been worse, but it isn't so bad, and I don't mean to brag, but I'm not the type to bitch about it. At least not out in the open where other people can hear. Still, my life's been pretty good so far. Especially when I live next door to a kind foxy mama and shares the same school as her bratty but extremely janky, obnoxiously extroverted, daughter, who is cute and fluffy as hell, but also likes to knock on my door pretending she's a Taiko Eats employee, which isn't very cute as it is obnoxious. Knock knock knock. Hello. Taiko Eats. Speak of the devil. Or the kitsune, I guess. Issei gently opened the door, receiving a flashback of that one scene from that one game, as lo and behold, a ball of orange fluff, getting bigger and seemingly fluffier as it hooped his face. Ha! Gotcha again. It didn't hurt him at all. His attacker's tail was mostly fur with a very thin tailbone that didn't even reach the end. Rather, it felt heavenly soft and heavenly aromatic. Sweet and somewhat fruity, hints of the special conditioner manufactured for any species that had more fur than most. Namely these fox spirits that aren't exactly spirits, as well as wolf spirits or okami in its Japanese term. It helped that kitsune, fox spirits, a subspecies of a yokai, always took great meticulous care of their hair and fur. Each strand was as lustrous and perfectly silky as the rest, verification of their brushing and treatment. The only drawback of having such a bushy appendage was that dust and grit easily stuck themselves between the hair, and therefore bathing took them a longer time. Nevertheless, they prided themselves in being the only species that possessed the most magnificent and thickest of tails. And Issei took pride in being the few people who got to enjoy it daily, as kitsune wasn't exactly a common race of the yokai, who was already one of the most secluded species, second only to vampires. Nevertheless, Issei wasted no time in getting flustered by the fluff as he wrapped his arms around the tail, and squeezed it to his chest as a yip of surprise could be heard coming from his attacker. Said attacker who was quickly regretting her decision. Let go. Get off me, you criminal. His resident kitsune shrieked, both her ears stiffening on high alert as she began to panic. But the time for mercy had passed, and her amber eyes grew wide in horror as she realized the grabber of tails had no intention of letting her off. How many times do I have to teach you this lesson, old man? Why would I order food for breakfast? Kunu's not old nor is she a man. She cried, unable to untug herself as that would hurt her more, and unable to use spells as that would be illegal, and Kunu didn't want to be arrested. How could she eat her mother's cooking in jail? The guards wouldn't be able to resist. But Kunu's pretty frickin' stupid, Issei said as a warning, unhating her tail as she immediately withdrew it, safe along with the rest of its siblings. She's not stupid. She's cute and Angie, she pouted, smoothing down her grab tail. Issei raised one eyebrow. One of his non-monetizable useless talents. Angie. You're Angie. Yes, very Angie, Kunu snarled, looking not very threatening since she was cursed with the curse of being too adorable to be ever taken seriously by others. It didn't help that she never felt genuine anger so far in her life. Thin lips still forming a stubborn pout, the young schoolgirl kitsune caressed her tail and fluffed the fur with her hands. Her uniform was just like any other girl's uniform of Kuoh Academy that they wore until they were at the last year. By then they were allowed to wear whatever they wanted as long as it was morally acceptable. Her tails didn't jut out from the bottom of her knee-length skirt or pulled through a specialized hole for tails, as they just simply phased through the fabric. She had 5 of them in total, each bigger and thicker than her lithe body, deep amber in color. Like chestnut, except brush-shaped. The tips were black in color, though several white hairs were starting to sprout. Those white hairs signified she was about to enter adulthood, and the amount of tails hinted her difference with other kitsune, who at most had 4 even after they matured. Kunu was a kyubi, a 9-tailed fox spirit. Her mother was a kitsune that was supposedly chosen by the sun goddess Amaterasu herself. Was this a fact or a rumor? Issei hadn't given it much thought, but one thing he knew was their tails bloomed behind them like petals of a lotus flower, making them a highly photogenic species. Maybe he should try being a photographer? But then he'd have to deal with annoying clients. It's not that he hated people, he just didn't want to serve anyone if he could help it. He was working part-time as a cafe barista, and there had been times he wished splashing hot coffee to an infuriating customer was considered a legal action. Let's go. We're gonna be late. His internal conflict was put to a halt as Kunu talked to him in a renewed vigor, already forgetting she was supposed to be mad. Well, she'd rather be mad than be late. And Issei, while not a perfect student, would be concerned with being late. If school wasn't starting in, he checked his wristwatch, a Casio with black belt, a gift from his dad. 1 hour. Give or take 4 minutes. First class wouldn't start until 8, and even then, the distance between his apartment and school could be covered with 10 minutes of walking. Understandably, Issei retreated into his place and shut the front door. He blankly stared at it as he listened to a machine gun rapid series of knocking. What do you mean what? Kunu whined. Let's go to school. It's 7 a.m., Kunu? Issei pointed to his watch, then at the rising sun leftward from his second-floor apartment. I miss my friends. It's been so long. Kunu, we literally only had a weekend. Exactly. It's been so long. Kunu insisted as she took a step inside to tug his long-sleeved arm. You're an adult now, go to school on your own. Kunu's not an adult, I'm only 17. That's pretty much at the walk-to-school-yourself age. No. I don't want to walk alone, there's scary people out there. Our town is one of the most peaceful towns in the entire Japan, Issei said with a matter-of-fact kind of tone. The biggest criminal here is you for being so spoiled. Kunu snarled as she tried to yank him, pulling on his hand to no avail. Not because Issei was strong or had a dragon residing inside of him like some sort of shounen action anime protagonist, but purely because Kunu didn't have much strength. The fastest track runner but the weakest in terms of raw power. Art, I want to go to school together. I haven't even had my breakfast. You never had breakfast. If you had, then Mama won't scold you about it. Maybe I avoided it so I can keep getting scolded. Kuoh made a face, figuring out what he meant, and gasped and scowled once she caught the undertone. Stay away from my mama. Fine, Issei huffed, then put on his shit-eating grin. I'll go for her daughter instead. Ha! The kitsune winced and gathered her tails to her hands, hiding the bottom half of her tiny face as she buried it behind. Her cheeks were beet red, and her ears anxiously swiveled and flicked as she mumbled something into her bundle of fox fur. If it gets you off my mama then. I'm joking, Kuoh, Issei sighed, though smiling a little. Yeesh. As much as he liked to fantasize, Issei didn't have the confidence to enter a relationship yet. Not when he hadn't yet figured things out. Maybe if he was as young as her or a year away, then perhaps he could have afforded to fool around. Experience having a cute kitsune as his girlfriend if she'd even agree to it. But he was at the very brink of entering another stage of his life. He had regretted the time he spent fooling around, because as things stood, he was now poorly equipped. He could have honed his skills better, regardless of what they were, and he was determined to get his priorities straight in this last year of his high school. He was supposed to have 2 siblings. Maybe a badass big brother or a cute older sister. Miscarriages were a bitch, but he at least should be able to pull his own weight and not worry his parents. Still, seeing a pair of boobs and hearing, "I love you," on a daily basis would be nice. An effective mood booster without a doubt. But enough daydream. Fine. I'll grab my stuff, then let's go, he finally decided, much to the kitsune's joy as she bounced on the balls of her feet, expectantly waiting for him to take his school bag. He had a lot on his mind lately, and maybe a morning walk would lift some of those niggling thoughts. Be careful on the road, and thank you, Hyoudou. Know what would instantly remove those thoughts? The sweet, melodious soprano of his next-door neighbor, peering out her door just enough to wave him goodbye and her peaceable smile. Hello, Yasaka mama. Issei immediately waved back, grinning widely as Kunu's frown started to crawl back on her face. You're as beautiful as... He looked around for inspiration. As the rising sun? A splash of faint pink blossomed over her healthy white cheeks. Hyoudou. It's improper to tease an old widow like me. Well, someone's gotta do it. Make you feel younger, eh? Oh you. Yasaka giggled as delicate fingers covered her thin pink lips. She was exactly like Kuoh except taller, more mature, obviously more chesty. Yasaka's hair and fur were golden compared to her daughter's auburn color. Her bangs were neatly swept to one side unlike Kunu's tomboyish spiky bangs and spunky ponytail, but her eyes were the same color as hers. They were like miniature sunsets, as beautiful as they held a certain kind of comforting warmth. Voluptuous? Kind and soft-spoken? Beautiful? Omega chick. Rocking that white apron over a black knitted sweater? Baby. Yasaka was enchantingly beautiful and every bit a foxy mommy. Issei had seen and met plenty of beautiful or cute girls, but Yasaka was the rare breed that was beautiful and cute at the same time. Maybe he was just into older women? He never thought of that. Wait, how old was Yasaka again? Few months ago they were celebrating her 29th birthday, and a month earlier, Kuoh had just turned 17. She was 13 when she had her? Wrong. He did his math wrong. Yasaka was 12 when she had Kuoh. Big yikes regardless. Probably a kitsune thing. Different culture and stuff. Still a disturbing fact for his human mind. Alright bye mommy. Let's go. Either way, Kuoh did not appreciate his banter with her mother, and stubbornly pushed him from the back. The walk to his school was peaceful for the most part. Kuoh only stopped to chase a random squirrel 3 times and brushed her frizzed-up tails because a dog barked at her once. Both of which were amazingly low numbers for her standards. It appeared fewer animals and people were keen to expose themselves to the cooling weather early in the morning. The trees too. Their brown leaves were starting to ditch the lonely branches, and he could hear the husbands grumbling once their wives told them to sweep their lawn. It was mid-November and winter wasn't in 2 weeks, but Issei could feel the lower temperature biting through his gray sweater and black sweatpants, nipping his skin like an army of ice termites. The days seemed to end quicker too, which was fine by him. He had always preferred the moon over the sun, because at least the moon wasn't trying to burn him during summertime. He liked cold weather above hot or mild weather too, because he could wear thicker clothes during winter, but he couldn't exactly shed his skin during summer as that would be a form of self-harm. Kuoh would agree as well. He was certain her mother would say the same. Their winter coats were starting to rise, thickening their already thick tails, and Issei thought the way their tails could curl around their neck and act as a scarf was very adorable as it was stylish. Speaking of which, it's almost an entire year since I met you, huh? He muttered aloud, eyes forward, suddenly feeling nostalgic. HM? Nanny? Kuoh perked her head up while she was in the middle of her own game, namely, Spot a Friend. It was a game where, as the name implied, she attempted to spot her friend so she could run up to them and say hi, possibly play. She didn't have much luck so far, but her spirit could never dim. Leave it up to Kuoh to ruin his melodramatic moment. Then again it was his fault for pronouncing nanny as nanny. Reap what you sow, he supposed. I said, it's nearly a year since we met. Really? But time flies. She muttered, before her eyes suddenly lit up. Kusatori. As Kuoh scampered down the road, Issei made a confused face and glanced up, finding nothing but the clear blue skies with the occasional clouds. Then he realized she was referencing the devil walking ahead of them. That explained why the kitsune sprinted and the nickname. In English, it meant poop bird, which would explain why Revel Phoenix immediately exploded into her usual hissy fit the moment Kuoh greeted her with said word. He could hear her yelling while Kuoh laughed at her from this far off. He didn't know much about her, but he knew about her older brother. He was his senior a year ago, and had graduated from Kuoh and opened a karaoke bar while still entering the university. At Kuoh Academy, of course. His family was one of the founders of that place after all. Still, so much for a peaceful morning. Who cares though? A bit of chaotic fun never hurt anybody. Revel, he nodded at the devil and then the white-haired girl walking next to her. Kaneko-chan. Mornin'. Hyoudou senpai, the Nikomata, Chiron, nicknamed Kaneko, which literally meant white cat, nodded as she greeted him. Her voice was quiet but her white feline ears were very perceptive to sound. It was probably the reason why she was so quiet, because she thought she was loud enough for others. Or because she was part cat and cats were quiet little rascals. Maybe he should ask Chiron's sister, Kuroka, about it one day. If she wasn't sleeping or getting upset at him for being given a can of sardine during White Day. She still ate them anyway when he asked her to return it. Evidently, her lax demeanor nonetheless helped even the balance a bit, especially when these two were around each other, chirping and yipping. Good morning, the blonde girl with the unique twin drills hairstyle trademark of a princess replied to him with a somewhat curt tone. She looked cross, and heavily armored with her thick winter jacket and that fuzzy yellow fur scarf around her slender neck. About time you showed up. Please handle this bad fox of yours. Issei turned to Kuoh. Well, you heard her. Bad fox. The kitsune looked horrified and flattened her ears forward. Kuno's not a bad fox. Issei turned to Revel. Well, you heard her. She's not a bad fox. I see, how convincing. Tell her it's uncouth to call anyone with that kind of nickname. But Kusatori is funny. It's insulting. It is kind of funny though, Kaneko muttered, earning herself a glare of betrayal from the phoenix. What? It nicely rolls off the tongue. Did it? Hence Issei decided to try it out. Say Kusatori. He pointed at her scarf as Revel was about to implode again. I can't believe you killed Big Bird. WH? As Revel averted her anger at him for the great insult, with Kuoh egging her on, laughing and saying she was a Muppet murderer, Issei's mind phased away and put the girls on mute. Height-wise, she was just as tall as Kuoh and her Nikomata friend. Size-wise, Chiron was the most disproportionate to her height. Likely due to her genetics, as she was as chesty and curvy as Kuroka was when he was just a freshman. Second to her would be Kuoh, which was also blessed by genetics, except that she was more lithe and athletic, thanks to her never-ending energy. In the last place would be Revel herself, which was still kinda busty though lacking in her hip area. Then again, all devils were busty. These were nothing more than an observation, of course, as Issei held no interest in brats, no matter how cute they were. Or maybe he was just into older women? That aside, he had 3 equally short girls around him, and that meant he was the tallest person there. While Issei himself wasn't that tall, he was considerably tall for his countrymen, standing just under 6 foot, or 180 in centimeters if you wanted to know the precise, correct, easy-to-imagine measurement that should have been made the global standard. These manlets, meanwhile, were barely as tall as his chest, and Issei couldn't help himself from pointing that fact out. Because he was a taller-than-average jackass who liked to make fun of people tinier than him. I feel like a babysitter taking the kids out for a walk. A sentence that earned him a dagger-like glare from the 2 bothered people from the group. The fox and the shitbird. Short girls are cute. Ravel defended, fuming. Probably would have melted the snow if it was snowing. Leave my mama alone, was Kunu's yell of woe, thinking that her evil senior wanted to make her his daughter through marrying her mother. After that brief shenanigan, Issei decided to part ways with the vertically impaired because, unlike them, he wasn't wearing a school uniform and he caught a yokai officer narrowing his eyes on him. Because, unlike them, he was in his 2nd senior year, and therefore he got to look stylish when he came to school. And he wanted to untangle himself from the noise anyway, and he still had 30 minutes to spare. He wasn't going to school this early. What is he, a nerd? Or someone who goes to school early? He's Hyoudou Issei, and he was a 20-year-old young man that wanted to get a cup of coffee in the morning. At the coffee shop where he worked because he got a 10% employee discount. The place was located in the shopping district, right at the western entrance which was closest to his school. 5-minute walk close. Crowds of school or university students usually flock to this kind of place like flies in the late afternoon to evening, which was exactly the very reason why this cafe, named Coffee Shock, affectionately nicknamed CS by kids his age, was constantly on the look for helpers and had quite the handsome pay. It was busiest during weekends, and his shift started every Friday after school until closing time, and Saturday afternoon from 1 to 6 unless they needed more help during the morning. Or when the weekday afternoons were unexpectedly busy and the staff struggled to keep up with the orders. As today was Monday, however, the homey, rustic coffee shop was barren. The bell dinged as he walked into the shop, and the sweet aroma of freshly brewed coffee and steaming toast immediately told him that he made the right choice. He walked to the cash register to make his order, where a blonde girl in black apron was easily spotted dozing off behind the counter, face buried in her hands. It wasn't opening time yet after all, and Issei didn't doubt the rest of the staff was busy in the office upstairs, dropping off their bags and whatnots. Welcome. She jolted awake, scrubbing her sapphire blue eyes as she squinted them the next second. Oh, it's you, and she yawned, scratching her golden bangs with blue tips, and stretched her hands and arched her body forward. Latia Astaroth used to be his senior, although he didn't get to be friends with her until after he became a staff of her coffee shop. She, as were any other female devils, was beautiful and stacked. Voluptuous and etc., good looks and long eyelashes and whatnots. Her eyes were her most enchanting features, Issei believed, as they were as blue as the ocean. Or simply the sapphire gemstone itself. What you want? Go and make it yourself? Top shelf service as always. He lowered his eyelids as he sauntered into the employees-only area. Technically, he was just an off-duty employee of hers. Washing his hands, he glanced over to her and found Latia already slumped over again. Busy day yesterday, huh? She groaned, yawning as Issei collected a jar filled with roasted coffee beans. Where were you yesterday? Passed out, he replied promptly, shooting a steam of hot air into a shot glass with one of the coffee machines. Saturday was packed. Someone's birthday? So I've heard. Latia yawned again. Might have been the same crowd that came by yesterday. Bunch of middle-aged men, huge cars, smokers, and loud dad laughs? Yep. Correct on all accounts. Never seen them before. Probably businessmen visiting their kids. He shrugged as he measured the caramel and then the milk. He was feeling a bit of cold brew of macchiato today. Might have screwed off already. I'd hope so. I liked it better when it's just kids, but they did fill up the tip jar and ordered a lot. So I'm torn as you can see. You're worn out is what I see. He sniffed as he poured his morning beverage into a plastic glass. Degradable, of course. He then topped it off with a silky white cream above the brown, icy delight. Are you gonna stay here today? Lilith, no. I'm going home. Once one of the bartenders got here. Rainer's sick, by the way. Bad stomach. From an expired yogurt she ate. She just said that in the group chat this morning. A loud groan, followed by a flat, fuck. Where's my damn phone? Size free today, so. Oh, thank goodness. Latia said as she breathed a sigh of relief, slumping down again. Don't scare me like that. I don't pay you to scare me. Scaring you comes for free, so he replied as he waltzed out of the bar area. I made caramel macchiato. Put it in my tab, alright? See ya? Off to school? Imagine still going to school. Couldn't be me. Imagine having to audit yesterday's transactions every morning because you run a cafe. Couldn't be me. Latia groaned audibly as Issei simply walked out the victors. There was a time when everyone used to surround him when he first entered Kuoh Academy. As he was one of the few humans who enrolled there, curiosity about his kind was on the rise. He used to think his popular moment had finally arrived and that he was about to peak during that year, but after a month, he became just another student in that school. Easy come, easy go. Presently, Issei was in his classroom, located somewhere on the 3rd floor of Kuoh Academy's main school building. He was, at the moment, pretending he was in a melancholic music video as he looked out the window, overlooking the front gate and the yard of the school. His nearly empty see-through plastic cup placed near his hand, dripping cold droplets of water as he gazed outside. 10 minutes before the school bell rang, and most of his classmates already flocked with their own circles. His school life wasn't the most amazing or drama-filled. Rather, it was pretty ordinary despite its colorful students. Fallen angels, Nephilims, love child of a horny fallen angel and an equally horny human, dragons, any winged creatures must keep their wings folded inside the school building at all times, and flying in the hallway was strictly forbidden. Yokai weren't allowed to use their trickeries, such as phasing through walls or using their third or whatever eyes to cheat during exams, and obviously telepathic or psychic powers were a no-go. Of course, there were special cases where students weren't able to fully control their supernatural powers or the drawbacks of their species. For example, Yukiana, Snow Woman, another race of yokai, was allowed to skip PE during a hot sunny day and seated next to students who could tolerate their cold air. Usually a dragon or a fellow Yukiana, or cold freak like Issei himself. Creatures that generally felt sluggish in daylight like vampires and devils with weaker constitutions were permitted to take a rest in the hospital-like infirmary. Devils might be the mischievous little creatures they are, but they certainly didn't hold back on building Kuoh Academy to be as accommodating as possible. The reasons for these restrictions as well as leniency were simple: to be mindful of each other, tolerate others, and help the pupils share a common identity with one another. It worked pretty good, all things considered. No bullying, no violence, and not much random excitement. Then again, Kuoh Town wasn't exactly the biggest of towns in Japan. He could take a bullet train to get to Tokyo in an hour, but the town itself was fairly rural compared to most. People usually came to live here for the low rent and to enjoy its peacefulness. He used to be a city boy when his parents moved, and Issei couldn't be any more glad to have returned to his hometown. He wasn't made to be in crowds, and the bustles of city life was just irritating at most. Sure, the entertainment was plenty. Strip malls, weird cafes, huge arcades, strange friends, loud city noises, but he just wasn't built to live in a city for more than 3 years. Once he moved back here. With his mother, he never looked back. Even his father came home the next year. His reveries were cut away by the laughter of his schoolmate. Momentarily, he glanced over towards their group. One man stood out from the rest as, well, he was the only guy in that circle. Ikkyu's Tobio, the wolf dog guy. And Okari Inu. At the moment laughing about something with Himejima Suzaku and Minagawa Natsum, 2 of which were bona fide humans. Usually a Yukiana would be there somewhere, but Lavinia Rennie was a year older and had graduated. She became a teacher's assistant right after. Speaking of which, she and Suzaku was one of the aptly named Great One Isama, along with her cousin Himejima Akino, a Nephilim, half-human, half-fallen angel, as well as Rias Gremory, a pure-blooded devil. Although Suzaka shared the same age as her fellow Great One Isama, her weak body had held her back a year because she missed her final exams. Unfortunate, but such was life. She didn't seem to mind repeating a year that much, however, even after being given a chance to take a follow-up exam. Probably because she just wanted to share a class with her friends, or maybe she was afraid of graduating into adulthood. Either way, good for her. Idly, Issei glanced back outside the window and readopted his role inside his imaginary music video. He was the class clown, but right now, the class clown wanted to act like an anime protagonist and be left mostly alone. He watched as more and more students sauntered inside the school gate, plenty in school uniforms, and few in semi-formal clothes. His eyes fell at a white-haired two-horned Oni who was giggling along with her fellow yokai friends. One's a snow-haired kitsune posing the traditional kon kitsune hand sign, and the other a floppy-eared brown-haired inagami. That one had a bakery somewhere in the town, if he recalled correctly, and rumored to have a morbid curiosity to fingers because they reminded her of breadsticks. As long as she wasn't going to start eating fingers for real, Issei supposed he didn't have anything to worry about. For now. Plenty of yokai in his school and town than other species, but that was to be expected since their species avoided the big cities and were drawn to traditional towns such as Kuoh, where the laws weren't as strict and their light-hearted pranks were tolerated. It helped that he lived in Japan. Anywhere else like Europe for example, then vampires, elves, Dullahan, Grim Reapers and such would be a more common sight. Taking a sip of his now lukewarm drink, Issei idly sniffled his nose, wondering what would happen if things weren't so peaceful. Maybe some insane generic evil guy would try to blow up the school or something. Maybe he got to have some cool dragonic powers for no reason other than luck. At least he was imagining things, until his mind got invaded by thoughts regarding his future prospects. He knew he couldn't stay a bartender forever. Much as he enjoyed the job and learning more about the world of coffee, he wanted something more. What exactly? He had no clue as of yet, but then he wouldn't be haunted by these kinds of thoughts if he had one. Yo, hey yow, came a stupid play on words as his classmate next to him decided it was time to bother him. A young man a year younger than him, with shaggy short brown hair that was shades lighter than his, and eyes as gray as the clouds. What's up with you, dude? You've been staring out the window. This isn't even your seat. I was thinking how nice the day was until you got here and ruined the illusion. Geez, man, why you have to do me like that? Genshuru Saji replied, acting hurt. Also seriously? Coffee? This early in the morning and in this weather? If it ain't cold I ain't drinking it. You got issues, dude, Saji sneered, shaking his head in disbelief. Anyway, have you heard? We're getting a new transfer student this week. That gained his attention. No shit? Again? Yeah. No shit. Again. Saji and Issei then glanced at Hyoudou Irina, a human-angel hybrid who had come home from England last semester. Everyone made a fuss about her being Issei's childhood friend and couldn't believe he thought she was a boy. Until they saw a picture when they were kids, of course. And then whenever anyone wanted to tease that twin-tailed girl, they just called her name with Akoin, and Irina would be glad to chase them down the corridor, wailing, I'm a girl too, you know. Today? Saji shrugged. Sometime this week? Boy or girl? Inquired Issei. I dunno, Professor Oak, Saji said flatly, sitting his ass atop the head of the chair in front of Issei's current table, which belonged to someone else. I hope it's a cute girl. Yeah, 'cause we're definitely short on that department, Issei pointed out. Look around. Name one girl here that isn't cute or pretty. You and me are like the ugliest around. Several of his female classmates blushed and tittered among themselves, happening to overhear their conversation. Hey, speak for yourself. I'll buy you fucking mirror. Whatever, Saji scoffed. But another cute girl won't hurt, right? Hope it's a guy though. We're like running low on dudes. Normal dudes. If it's a guy but he looks like Kiba, then let's make a plan to cause an accident on him. True, Issei nodded plaintively. To all statements, Hyoudou Kiba was handsome and nice and kind, and that was exactly the problem with exceptionally handsome bishis like him. They hog all the attention from most girls. Even from girls with boyfriends. Not his fault, but Issei liked to make fun of everyone equally anyway. Saji sighed. You're right? Especially with the M&Ms being gone. Never as many insane stories anymore. Like, come on. What kind of sick psycho would run down the science hall blasting off a fire extinguisher and pull down the fire alarm? Just to skip biology. Yeah, Issei nodded, grinning along, sharing a fond stupid memory with this dumb classmate of his. Matsu's a special kind of idiot. Remember that one time he ran into a glass door because he was chasing someone? Smashing that whole thing? PF. He didn't even bleed. With the stunts he pulled, you never understand how his pants kept his balls of steel contained. Issei absently nodded, a wide smile on his face. I know, right? He was the fucking king. It's almost been a year. Motohama too? Saji then added. That crazy bastard exploded the boys' toilet, dropping whatever the fuck that thing is. Sodium, Issei sniggered. If that Four Eyes wasn't always the top of his entire year, he would have been expelled, I swear. Oh dude, you should have seen Sona's face. Issei made a face as if he had just seen someone getting their balls whacked and sympathized with him. I heard she was busting ass to kick him out of the school. She was fucking livid, Saji cackled. It was like she wanted to have him publicly executed, full-on French Revolution style. She looked so hot when she's pissed off though. Great. Because that was exactly what he wanted to hear when he was reminiscing about his lost pals. Alright lover boy, you ruined it. Now fuck off and keep chasing her skirt, you mutt. Or I'll tell Momo. Go ahead and tell her, she knows already. Saji sneered. I get that humans are monogamous, but polyamory is great, dude. You should try it. That's right. Humans were the one and only species who firmly held the belief of having one lifetime partner. No wonder their population was in decline. People like Saji were a dime a dozen. Sure. Maybe when I have a yacht or make 6 figures a month. Bah? You're thinking too far into the future. Come on, you're a funny guy. Girls like talking to you now that your mind isn't constantly in the gutter. Live in the moment, dude, Saji urged, bro-slapping Issei's arm, causing him to fake a whining cry, acting like he was stabbed, much to Saji's amusement and a few onlookers. See? Exactly what I'm talking about. You're quick-witted and a shithead. And you've been single for what? Since before I was born, Issei quipped. Being a virgin wasn't a huge deal anymore. In fact, people were impressed by his wizard-like resilience for rejecting obvious invitations for no-strings-attached one-night stand by the succubi in this school. They liked virgins for whatever reason. Must be a succubi thing. He got invited by a bisexual incubus too, thinking he swung that way. Issei kindly turned him down, and ended the circulating rumor that he was gay in that very day. Call him an old-timer or sentimental, but Issei intended to listen to his father's words of not doing something he might regret and keep it real. He knew who he was, and he knew he wasn't the type of person to just fuck and leave and pretend nothing happened. Other people might do it, and good for them. But he had the integrity of a stubborn human that simply wanted to love and be loved in return before doing the deed. Problems started to rise when he couldn't tell what separate love and lust. See, the guys have been wondering how the hell you stayed single all this time when you make chicks cluck like hens every day 24/7. Shit, you even made Sona laugh once. Who the hell does that? Issei gave his dirty blonde friend a look. That's the stupidest metaphor I've heard so far. You know what I mean. Saji leapt off his seat as he noticed his ice girl girlfriend entering the classroom. Don't be a worrywart, you're still too young for that kind of stuff. It's the last year of our school life. We don't even go to school every day anymore. So ease up a little, fuck it, and let's go all out, yeah? If I say yes, will that make you fuck off? Saji ignored the jibe. What about we make a bet? The first girl walks in that door, you go up and ask her out. If you get shot down, I'll treat you to all-you-can-eat sushi. Who knows? Maybe it's the new kid. That'll be one hell of a first-day impression. Assuming it's a she. But free sushi? Count me in. Issei rubbed his hands all together, his grin emerging. Trading dignity for a free meal? He'd sell his dignity for a free ticket to the movies. That's my guy, Saji laughed as he left, strutting along the desks. Issei speakated as he tossed his hands to the air as he greeted Hanakai Momo with an extravagant fashion that immediately put her on the spot, flustering her ivory white cheeks with the color red, dropping the room temperature a single degree, while the rest of the students laughed at her boyfriend's antics. That guy was still in the stuco, believe it or not. He first got there to get close to Sona but ended up actually enjoying the work. Good for him. As for Issei, it was too late for him to join a club now. Sure, he had passed the national exam last year, and this last year wouldn't even have as many subjects as the last, but he wanted to leave his day open so he could help out at the cafe. Earn himself some extra dosh to be poorly spent on alcohol or into his savings so he could finally get a motorbike. He wanted to go vroom one day. Preferably with a big-breasted girl on his back, so he could pull the brake all of the sudden and experience the squishing. All in all, maybe he was worrying too much. This was his last year. Might be the last year where he got to see these people before they all spread away to different regions or even countries. Fuck it. The year was about to end, and he swore to make it an introduction to his most bombastic year. What did that mean? He had no idea, but if he didn't end this year on a high note, then he'd think of something to punish himself for failing to meet his target. No wanking for a month or so. That'd be a pretty cruel punishment. Not needing to steel his resolve as it was rock solid already, Issei got up from Kuroka's seat, whose owner was still nowhere to be seen, positively late. The school bell rang. He saw Saji eyeing him and the door expectantly, and seemed to have told some of the girls and a few guys about their bet. The whole class soon had their eyes on him, and then the door and then him, holding their breath as the air seemed to have thickened with anticipation. It was as if a bomb had been set off when someone opened the sliding door and entered the intensely silent classroom. Issei's eyes widened to a saucer, but he eased himself down. He was built for this, to drown out the noises and focus on what was ahead of him. Oh my god, one of the students had begun to freak out, hardly containing her excitement. PFFF. Quiet. Come on, give it to her, another girl shouted. The worst she could say is no. Says you? Muttered one particularly forlorn guy. You shot me down and told me you'd rather date a monkey. Quiet. Issei couldn't help but laugh at himself, laughing at how fate had decided to mess with him. He had no chance of success, but free sushi was free sushi, and only pussies walked out of a bet, no matter how unexpected things turned out to be. With the heart of a lion and straightened posture devoid of shame, a trademark of class clowns all around the world, Issei approached the stunning woman, currently giving a weird look at her students that were staring at her with stifled laughter. She was dressed in a long-sleeved purple sweater underneath a white coat. A black business skirt reached down to her knees, with a leg slit revealing her thighs that were wrapped in black stockings. Her emerald green eyes were a stark contrast to her long wavy hair with the color reminding him of a cherry blossom petal. It was elegantly braided as per usual and cascaded down her shoulder. A pair of spiraling horns rested by each side of her head, though in his eyes they were more like hair ornaments at this point as he had grown so used to seeing horny people. She was a devil, after all, and she was one of his school's hot nurses and temporary homeroom teacher since Rossweiss caught a cold. Everyone couldn't be more ecstatic about this unexpected turn of events, as several of the students had their phone up and recording to immortalize this scene. Roigun-sensei, as we both are hot people, wanna go out and be the hottest couple? Issei fired his shot, his empty plastic cup in one hand because he was going to throw it away after this. Roigun Belphegor blinked. A look of surprise, but it soon shifted into the look of someone who caught a grasp of the situation at hand and confidently gave a coy smile. Is this the best you can do? She teased back, eyes hinting at the item in his hand. An empty plastic cup? Issei glanced at the cup with the Coffee Shock logo on it. It's biodegradable. The student snickered. Deciding to be an environmentalist, I see. Who set you up for this? Saji, Issei blandly said. And the promise of free all-you-can-eat sushi? Is that so? Do I get to enjoy the bet as well? He made it a point to say he'll only treat me if I get shot down. Roigun raised her sleek eyebrows. Oh, then regardless of my answer, I'll end up missing out on something while you gain something? Not very chivalrous from the two of you. Oof, a wince out of sympathy was heard. Ah, but sensei, you're already making more than enough to have full-course sushi for a month. Why throw away your dignity just to keep me out of a free meal? Supposedly so. Roygun muttered. Free sushi is free sushi, no? Damn straight, Issei sagaciously nodded, earning himself more snickers from his classmates, still on the very edge of their chair or desk or their boyfriend's lap. Then what about you and I head out there after school? I've been dreaming of eating raw meat lately. Issei shrugged, his mind on autopilot. Well, swing and a miss. I hope you're happy, Saji. You better cough it up. And then his mind properly registered her words, and realized that wasn't a rejection, so he turned around to the hot school nurse. Wait a minute, that's illegal. It happens to be perfectly legal, now that you are 20 and is in the last year of your school. You're shitting me, Issei blinked, his accent slipping. Am I? I've been asked out by worse, but never a student. How bad can you be? I am a devil, in case you've forgotten. If you think I'd pass on such fresh blood, then you are terribly mistaken, young man. Issei wasn't sure how to react other than to stand there, owlishly staring at Roygun, who gave him a playful wink. Holy shit, it's a yes. He scored our hot nurse. His classmates had an idea, however, as the class erupted into cheers and uproarious laughter as tables were banged and hands were clapped as their excitement peaked and their morning was made. All right, zip it and sit down, you animals, Roygun demanded, walking past her new date, albeit not without a self-satisfied giggle. She sat before the teacher's desk, which wasn't advised, but who cares since nobody in her temp class was a snitch. Class is starting soon and I don't want anyone making a big deal out of this. I know some of you rascals have slept with the principal. Who hasn't? Said the succubus on the back. Clearly those who aren't stupid or constantly horny, Lilim. Roygun pointedly replied, much to the joy of the students. Then she noticed one student that was still standing in front of the class, still with that garbage in his hand. Get to your seat, Hyoudou. Or would you rather sit down on my lap? It was at that very moment where she thought this might be pretty fun. She might even be a teacher for the sake of teasing her new plaything. She could already picture the poor fool furiously blushing like all the boys she had teased. All bark and yet no bite when she barked back. They dared to fantasize about her, yet none had the guts to play with her. She didn't expect much from Class 4A's Joker, but she kept her expectations relatively low to avoid disappointments and simply enjoyed the result no matter how pitiful. It was key to live a not-so-dull life as a devil. Besides, at the very least, she expected him to be able to make her laugh once in a while. Assuming his courage didn't shrivel like dried raisins. With hootings and a poorly replicated whistling noise from one of the male students who couldn't whistle, Issei absently nodded as he, at the very last, dumped his drink onto the garbage bin. Then he walked to a desk and took a seat. On the teacher's chair. And with the confidence and the shamelessness possessed by none other than this Hyoudou, hazel brown eyes looking straight to her eyes, he said to her, I'd rather you sit on mine. Roygun widened her eyes as the class once again entered an uproar. The girls squealed their trademark high-pitched KH, while the boys pant-hooted like love-struck baboons. Cheers and woots drowned the previous silence as a bunch of people had another good time because of their beloved class jester's witty and confident delivery. In that moment, Roygun smiled. A devilish one compared to his smug, tight-lipped smirk. The kind of smile of someone mildly impressed and amused. She found it hard to believe that her cheeks were actually getting warmer and her heartbeat beat a pace faster. He might fare better than she thought. She had always enjoyed listening to his stupid harmless jokes or his tales whenever one of his weak-to-sun classmates visited her office. Even the teachers regarded him as a decent young man despite his less-than-average grades and didn't particularly mind of his antics since he timed his moments just right to not be one of those imbecile class clowns who was being funny for the sake of getting attention. But Roygun didn't expect him to be this ballsy, so to speak. Issei himself was well aware Roygun saw her agreement meant nothing more than an agreement to play a game. Fine by him. Who wouldn't want to play a game with the extremely spicy hot school nurse? In case she hadn't realized it yet, Issei could drive himself to be a competitive player. Besides, fuck it, right? He had nothing to lose anyway, and his sense of shame was practically non-existent, all thanks to the M&M idiots who had taught him how to grow a pair under their tutelage. He had decided to make this year his insane one, What better way to make the first step by out-deviling the devil in her own game? Easy to outrun a fish, but to outswim it? Now that is a different kind of victory. His kind of victory. And hey, maybe he could actually learn something from an allegedly responsible working adult and get a grip on what he wanted to become. A teacher's lapdog was definitely not one, no matter how smoking hot she was. Didn't mean that Issei won't bark at her for the heck of it. Hi again. It's me. Your best worst nightmare. That didn't make any sense, but sometimes not all things in life make sense. Apparently I'm going out with one of the great hot school nurses now, but somehow, for some reason, there's this yelling in my head that screams, "You're just on a trial period." Gee, wonder if that has to do with Roigun-sensei being a friggin' devil, a species that generally likes mischief and teases people by putting evil notions in their head without using anything magical other than their silver tongues or their devilish physique. Now I won't be a hypocrite and claim looks don't matter. They might not matter to these people that look like they've just stepped out of a beauty spa when they just woke up, but it did play a part when I was younger. Notice the use of past tense. That's right, I scored high grades in English to be smug about it. Also because that's the only subject I'm good at, the other one being PE, because who doesn't have fun chasing girls legally in a game of tag or hitting them with your balls in a game of dodgeball? That, and health education. For reasons that are obvious. If it's not obvious for you, then I'm sorry, but I think your brain operates one time zone behind. Aside from that, I'm pretty decent at Japanese. Can I cook? I can boil water and make instant noodles. Does that count? I can fry fries and chicken nuggies too. This is the year where I take home economics, however, and I do want to give it a shot because cooking for yourself is more financially efficient, cheaper, than ordering takeaways. Do you know you can live off of 1,000 yen for a week? You just need to buy some taters and macaroni, add in some ketchup, slices of tomato and cheap cheese, and you'll be set for that week. You'll get sick of eating the same thing, but beggars can't be choosers, right? So I got myself in a group with Hyoudou and Murayama. The teachers set the team up. They're not my first choice. Believe me. But I ended up being their test subjects if anything. But Issei, at least you get to eat a girl's. Cooking, bullshit. They fed me poison. Poison, I tell you. And for what? So they can cook edible foods for the boys they like. That is 100% not me. If it was me, then they would have at least listened to me when I said chocolate and curry don't mesh well, and not scoff and call me an uncreative wuss. Like what the hell? These girls are determined to make something that will melt to the center of the earth. And they want me to eat that? You're right. Yeah, right. I told them no. Full stop. I drew my own line, and I did not cross it. I'm a man of principles. And then they paid me in lunch. On a totally unrelated note, do you know free food can be a decent eraser for some stupid line and principles? The boys they like? Well, let me tell you about a story where one time, the two of them brought me to the side of the school. It's a popular spot for lovebirds to confess their love, right under that one gigantic cherry blossom tree. Cool shades, pretty pink petals. If it's spring, gold, bronze, then red in autumn, which is still fucking scenic, and the wind and the breeze is just right. With scarlet blush scattered on their face, their fingers fiddling with their hair, Murayama's long floppy dog ears jerking the slightest of jerk while Hyoudou's fluffy pink bunny ears twitched ever so slightly, probably trying to listen for any eavesdropper, they confessed to me. Right there, right then, that they were in love with Matsuda and Motohama, respectively. That was the moment I decided to keep my romance life expectations 6 feet under and bury the shovel with it. Although to be honest, I wasn't as disappointed as I was shocked when they told me about it. Even if it was the heat of the moment, I could already kinda tell I wasn't gonna be the one. I saw the signs. I saw them stealing glances at my boys. I just thought I was hallucinating or ate something bad. I kinda took pity on them when my homies go sayonara, I'll admit. Many Kleenexes were shed that day, filled with tears and snot, when they broke the news that they were leaving. Murayama and Hyoudou never got to tell their feelings because they didn't want to make it harder for the boys, which, even for a heartless jackass like me, was still pretty fucking heartrending. Sometimes I think I should have given them the push. You know, if you don't say it now then they'll never know, that kind of push. But I never fell in love with anybody to begin with, so who the hell was I to tell them what they should or shouldn't do? Ultimately, the decision was theirs to make. Their cooking got better, thankfully. For my stomach, other than my two idiots, they're still determined to make their food less mystery food X and more actual food. Other than being better for the M&M, Yuto Kiba was the definite answer until he fucked off to uni and hooked up with the ex-vice pres of the Stuco, Shinra Tsubaki. She's an Oni, by the by, while Kiba is a Dullahan. Not the strangest pair you'd find in this academy. Dullahan are supposed to be headless and carry their head on their arms like a grocery bag, but thanks to some techie-magicy advancements made by Grigori Global Research Industries, they found a way to attach the head to the body and reduce the global cardiac arrest incident by a hefty amount. Funny coincidence, eh? But yes, he can take his head off. He's got a seal thingamajig lined across his neck like a thin tattoo, but legal and not harmful to your job opportunity. I don't know him much since he's my senior, and I don't get to see seniors as often unless they're in the same club as me, which he doesn't. He's in the Kendo Club while I've been a Go Home Club loyalist for more than 3 years, and I don't plan on quitting anytime soon. Shut up. I'm not a loser. Shut up or I'll call my mom to shut you up with her slippers. It's not that I don't join any club because I don't want to stay in school longer than I have to and I just want to go home and go bed. While that does have a number in the equation, it's not the only variable. Alright, it was the only variable when I was in the first term of my sophomore year because I was a lazy bastard who just wanted to play computer games, some questionable games you don't want your mother to ever catch seeing, and some morally questionable games that will make people see you as a psychopath if you ever talk about the things you do in that game out in public. What am I supposed to be talking about again? The reason for my no club. Money. Money is the reason. And the root of all evil. Apparently. I didn't join a club because I could do part-time work. Why have fun with people my age when I can experience the legal form of child labor? I was always a year or 2 years older than my classmates anyway. When I was in 10th grade, I was already 17. That's the bare minimum working age as a part-timer in most countries. What's that? It's lower in your country? Good for you. Maybe you should tell that in your own story and not interrupt mine. Anyway, by the way, Busway, I love having money, and I love making money on my own, legally, of course, that I get to keep and spend on my own. And above all, I like having a good rep with shop owners because I worked there once, lifting cardboard boxes and whatnots. Getting stuff at a cheaper price rocks yo, especially at a liquor store. All I have to do to keep that privilege is to never brag about it or tell anybody about it, elsewise I'm sure a housewife will spray them with complaints. I'm telling you right now? Well, that's fine. You're a nobody anyway. Holy hell, I can go off tangent by a mile, can't I? My bad G. See, author? I suck at this narrating thing. Pay someone else, you stingy bastard. I swear, there's been times I see things I'm not supposed to see. No, I'm not talking about girls changing their clothes, you pervert. That's old news and that's lame. Nowadays you just ask them to change. You'll get slapped for it, but that's more ballsy than being a creepy peeper. Anyway, sometimes, when my mind's dozing off, I see a tiny white and red rooster staring at me in one of the corners of the room I'm in. I see him sitting on his wit chicken but an even tinier laptop on his yellow chicken legs, clickety-clacking with his feathery fingers while cackling heh-heh-hanks like a cock that is planning a night raid to the duck's coop. But whenever I snap out of it, that midget rooster always disappears. I might need to take some meds. Jesus Christ, Issei, focus. I'm sorry. It's just a condition of mine that my mind starts to go off the rails whenever I'm forced to talk to someone I don't want to talk to. It helps keep me from wanting to jump off a cliff and end the conversation and everything else. Speaking of cliffs, Roigun-sensei has 2 of them. Albeit they're not exactly steep. Rather, they're bouncily round and I bet they can make you feel happiness if you ever slide off them. And I think she noticed I was staring at them. I'm standing behind her in front of the class as a punishment for my earlier sit on my lap stint. Probably not the smartest move, but what else am I supposed to do? Ignore them like a gentleman? What are you mad? I'm standing behind her while she's sitting. They're right there. They're practically whispering, "Oh, look at these." Hyoudou, the substitute homeroom teacher of Class 4A, spoke to him without batting her eyes. You have nerves, don't you? I happen to have 20/20 eyesight also, ma'am. And complete lack of self-control. Roy-gun swiveled her comfy chair to look at him properly while the class entered yet another state of held-back snickering. Do you think I wouldn't notice? No, but I think you made me stand here, a meter away behind you instead of that corner over there for a reason. Issei pointed to a corner near the entrance as the class went expectantly waiting for the teacher's reply. That's a naughty corner, where naughty students or sleepy students were made to stand for the rest of the class to see and giggle at whenever someone walked in and got surprised. Issei, as a matter of fact, rarely ever got to visit that corner, because interrupting class was not his way of having fun. And because some of the fun-loving teachers had bribed him with snacks and even a little lunch money to prevent him from turning the class into a circus by uttering a single sentence. A wise investment on their part, if he must say. They understood the power he wielded and they respected it. Feared him even. With great power comes great responsibility, as Uncle Ben No. 4 would have told him if he could stop getting himself shot. Yes, Roy-gun said, and if you think that reason is because I want you to leer at me, then your optimism is severely misplaced. And here I thought you put me here because you already can't stand being apart from me. And the class went wild. Issei took a moment to face his classmates, his arms spread like a gladiator of old, and bowed deeply as Saji loudly cheered him on with the energy of a world-class hype man. That's my boy. Even Roy-gun couldn't deny his delivery was as smooth as butter. She laughed softly under her breath, smiling as she tongued her cheek, unexpectedly finding herself enjoying this clown more than she had expected. Very well, she'd allow him to weasel his way out of this one. Go back to your seat, Hyoudou. And keep your voice down, Gensher. This is a classroom, not a stadium. If I don't, do I get to stand behind you too? Sei hopefully said, receiving a well-earned slap to his arm by his very own girlfriend that was sitting right next to him, the air around her noticeably dipping a few degrees because of what he said. Yao. I'll have to say no. That place is reserved for him and you're nothing more to me than a student, Roy-gun said just as smoothly as it was scathing as the students poked fun at Saji for getting shot down and for upsetting Momo while he was at it. Nevertheless, Issei returned to his seat, which was nowhere near the window and was at the rightmost column, nearest to the hallway, and right in the middle row. There were a total of 3 rows, each row having 4 pairs of tables all facing the digital whiteboard on the front, because if they were facing the other way around then that would be counterintuitive and add more work to both students and the teacher. That totaled 24 available seats for those who couldn't be bothered with counting. Kuoh Academy was an elite school, hence the low number of students per class. 22 students in Class 4A, the majority of them being girls, had nabbed and claimed those seats except for 2 in the far left corner, down in the teacher's tables column. The notorious M&M's corner while they rotated with Issei from time to time. Their seats had been left empty after their departure during the first semester. Not out of sentimentality, but because the class simply didn't want a new seat arrangement yet since they already got chummy with their neighbor. And they did unanimously decide to leave those spots alone out of respect to Issei, who was obviously the one missing his idiots the most, although he never made it obvious. Back to his seat, it was not located near the window, because he was not an anime main character, although he did have hair to be one. Or used to, until the school made him cut his 2 ponytails and trimmed his bangs. Then he lost a bet and was forced to use hair gel to prop his bangs up as a joke. He ended up looking better and presentable than he was, and even gained himself more than a few compliments or at least approval from both the girls and the boys. Funny how different hairstyles can improve or ruin your look. He never looked back since then. Although it did get annoying when people started slapping his exposed forehead. It wasn't even big, it was just average like his face. Then again, he shouldn't have started the trend by patting Kate's forehead whenever he got the chance. Karmic justice was what he received, he supposed. It was kind of funny and he wasn't a wimp that got pissy from a practical joke that infected the entire class and became a tradition. As a result, everyone became 10 times more alert whenever they were about to expose their temple. Most especially the girls during summer since they pulled their hair back to a ponytail or with a headband. Upon his triumphant return, his seat neighbor, Hyoudou Irina, didn't appear all too pleased with his show, as this twin-tailed childhood friend of his had her cheeks puffed and arms crossed. If Issei had paid her any attention earlier during the moment he and Roygun was about to be the entire school's hottest topic, he would have noticed Irina was the only one that wasn't cheering with the girls. Nope. She was staring at him with disbelief as she listened to her heart and hope being shattered into pieces. "Sup, Shirina?" He nodded upwards to her, the boy's trademark casual way of greeting or a form of wordless acknowledgement. A mystery for the girls because this guy nod seemed to transcend language and species. "Had a nice morning, didn't you, Issei?" she said with a not-so-unusual grumpy tone. Issei wasn't dense enough to not notice that at least. "Whoa," he winced back, "what's with you? Did Vivi tug your hair again?" Said Vivi was the nickname of the person on the front seat, Ingvild Leviathan, a devil who was never spotted without her sweet, innocent smile, but actually had a strong resistance to anything horror. She turned around when she heard look at him as Ingvild Leviathan gave him a wave and mouthed a cheerful hello. Both Issei and Irina waved back as the devil turned around to pay attention to what Roygun was saying. Her table neighbor was Kiryu Yaka, a half-human half-succubus offspring. A Cambion, who also turned around and gave Issei a thumbs up for a play well done. He gave the Cambion the chef's kiss gesture. "She's so cute," Irina sighed dreamily, her previous anger already melting away. "Vivi, I mean, not Kiryu." Though not looking back, Kiryu frowned. "I heard that. You're a sinful being. Like you never covet what you don't have yet others do." Kiryu tittered succubusly, grinning to herself as she knew about Irina's one-sided affection. Whoever said a Cambion couldn't be best friends with a Nephilim had too little imagination in their head. Why would Kiryu ever miss the opportunity to corrupt and tease such a pure maiden? Nevertheless, her retort placed Irina in her place as the twin-tailed ginger quieted down. "Vivi is cute," Issei agreed, resuming their earlier conversation, deciding that, for a fact deniable by none, Ingvild was indeed very cute. "Not as cute as me." Ooh, Irina made a face as she stared at him with disgust. Why oh why did she have to fall for him out of all people when he's this stupid? Right? She's just as stupid. Anyway, she was supposed to stay mad at him for breaking her heart. Hard to do that when he was the person who cheered her up all the time, however. "I can't believe Sensei said yes." Issei replied in a hushed tone. What can I say? Popular with the ladies. You never had a girlfriend," Irina whisper shouted, still in shock. "I thought you're not interested in this kind of thing?" "Well, I didn't, but I did." "Since when?" "Since Genji made the bet." "Oh, for heaven's sake." Irina glared to her left, across the walkway bridging her column and the middle one. The dirty blonde boy felt the half-angel's intense glare and looked to his right. "What? Why were you looking at me like that?" His worried question was returned with a puffy pout and a quiet "Mph" as Irina threw her head away. Saji looked at Issei in search of answers, but Issei was just as clueless as he was, replying with a no-clue expression and faint head shake. "What's the matter with you?" Issei probed with a surprisingly decent fake Italian mob boss accent. "Why the grump, Mrs. Grinch? Christmas is still a month away." "Shut up and leave me alone," Irina replied, determined to stay mad. Albeit she knew in her heart of hearts that Issei wasn't to blame for this. But alas, emotions are rarely courteous enough to wait for the tragedy to pass before they make themselves snug in her heart and mess her judgment. "Hey, Irina. You alright?" he asked again with genuine concern this time. "Was it something I said?" "Let her be, Hyajerk," came a voice directly in front of him. "It's that time of the month." "Oh, fair enough." He was allowed an out, and Issei took it. "Okay then. I'll get you some dark chocolate." Although it was a lie, Irina was relieved nonetheless. And touched too by his peace offering, but any more of this and she might actually start to cry, and she didn't want to cry yet. Unaware of her student's predicament and that she was one of the causes, Roygun Belphegor proceeded with her interim homeroom teacher day as per usual. "Alright, listen up, as I'm sure you've already been made aware because gossip spreads like the plague in this place. We are getting ourselves a new prey, friend today." "Did she just say it's prey?" "Zip it, Genshuru," Roygun declared, and Saji zipped his mouth. Although a flirt when she was off-duty, Roigun didn't become a teacher in the prestigious Kuoh Academy because of her looks or skills alone. She knew when and how to discipline a student that had crossed the line. Especially when she made that line a few inches shorter due to her slip-up. As I was saying, she continued, as this isn't the first time your class has had a transfer student, don't make a big deal out of it, play nice, and treat them as you would one of your own. Curiosity is all fine and dandy, but do respect one's personal boundary. Are we clear? Yes, ma'am, the entire classroom responded. Unfortunately for a certain person who thought they were being smart, Roigun heard one reply that was unlike the other. All right, which one of you just called me mom? All eyes turned towards one young man, who immediately threw the culprit under the bus by pointing his finger at them. Do you want me to be your mother, Ms. Yaka? Yes, please. The pupil sniggered. Roigun was once again reminded why Class 4A was the most infamous class in their year and often the lunch talk of the teachers. Most students here were perfectly capable of being the class clown themselves. Hyoudou Issei was just their ace, but not their only star players. Not that she was complaining, she found it funny that these kids were able to give her coworkers a headache. Hell, perhaps Rossweiss was taking another day off because she didn't want to deal with them. The first few weeks might be funny, but Roigun could see how these band of gremlins could chew away one's patience. And she had only been their substitute homeroom teacher for 3 days. But since she wouldn't be a permanent one, Roigun simply went along with the flow. Very well. You must hereby address me as Mom as long as we're in a school ground until I say otherwise. Failing to adhere to our agreement means you agree to be sent into detention and have a word with Sona Citri, your former student council president, who happens to have agreed in aiding the teachers in disciplining unruly students. Shit. Kiryu immediately paled and regretted her decision. The mere utterance of Sona Citri had struck fear in many students, and not even the most frivolous of succubi or cambion was immune to dread or have ears that could take a 1-hour-long lecture. Her other classmates felt both relieved and shared her pain. Relieved because they weren't Kiryu, but shared her pain because being sent to face Sona Citri was like being sent to the gulag. Or, you can simply agree to never call me with anything else other than Sensei or Ms. Roigun. Whichever you prefer. Yes, Roigun-sensei, Kiryu replied firmly like the good student she was, as the rest of the classroom was determined to never call Roigun their mother. I'll accept that too, Roigun smiled as she shrugged and left her seat to open the door and let the new kid in. Anyway, my adorably rotten students, be nice and be respectful. Once again, Class 4A held their breath as Roigun walked outside to collect their new classmate. No one muttered a single word, not wanting to ruin the dramatic tension. The few male students began to bounce their legs, anxiously shaking. The female students were about to start to gossip but were immediately shushed down by the boys, and they were about to start an argument when, finally, a figure entered their classroom. And everything went still. She was clad in a thick winter coat, predominantly white in color, wearing an appropriately long and warm legwear. A black and white scarf flung around her neck, and she had both her hands snug in the pockets of her jacket. A large black pair of triangular furry feline ears were kept warm by fuzzy earmuffs, and a pair of brown Uggs boots topped her stylish winter look, and made everyone felt warmer just by looking at her. The fuck? Issei was the one to smash the silence like shattering a mirror. You're the new transfer student? What are you on about? I'm late, Naya, Kuroka, their resident Nekashu, blandly muttered, just then noticing everyone was looking at her with weird, somewhat disappointed and oddly judgmental stares. Why were you guys booing me? Wanna have a scratch match? If you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. I'll scratch your face off for free, Genji, said the cat to the failed Romeo, whose Juliet was getting poutier by the day. As Kuroka took her seat that was directly in front of the teacher's table, her next-door neighbor nowhere to be found, positively even later than her, she tossed a glance at Momo. What do you even see in that idiot? Just break up with him and let me take you instead. As the girls squealed and the boys' imagination went haywire, actually getting hot themselves, even Tobio accused, the most normal of the boys looked uncomfortable. Saji was the only one who panicked because there was no way he could hold a candle to Kuroka. Not in terms of the amount of girls that fawned over her. Oh, don't you be a home wrecker? Saji said nervously, gulping when he noticed Momo was actually blushing and fidgeting with her hair. Kuroka took off her white earmuff, her ears flicking a few times as she sneered a smirk. You can't threaten me with a good time. For you. Saji wailed but quickly found a getaway. Anyway, Hyoudou Issei scored Roigun. What? When? Just now. Kuroka skeptically eyed him. What? You're kiddin', she decided, and looked over way past the column of students to the subject in question. Hyoudou Issei, she called, gaining his attention and the rest of her classmates. You serious? No, I'm Issei, he said blandly. A student of Kuoh Academy, Class 4A. My hobby is watching paint dry and chewing crayons. People think I'm a guy, but I'm actually a dude. The old joke garnered a few laughs but a half-lidded eyes from the black cat, who was stifling her grin because she didn't want to give him the satisfaction. Shut up. There's no way. You asked Roigun out? Hey, I made history. Go ask anyone. They'll tell my story. Oh, I will, Kuroka challenged as she scanned the room and quickly assessed her options. The guys were out of the question because they might be in cahoots, even Tobio. That left her with the girls. The succubus or part succubus were immediately out of the question because they'd never give a straight answer and would just ask her out. She'd ask Vivi, but Kiryu would probably tell her to keep quiet and keep her guessing. The cat girl settled for the rabbit girl instead because she got fed up with thinking. Hey, Kates. A pair of long, half-lopped pink ears rotated to their left as Kates looked at her, Cerie's pink eyes blinking in surprise and a bit of natural fear due to their race. Twice? Kuroka-san? That's Onisaman to you, by the way, Kuroka smirked. Is that true? When she received a timid nod in return, Kuroka looked taken aback. What the fuck? I didn't know that could happen in real life. How the hell did you beat me to her? You snooze, you lose, tuna breath. Issei half shouted across the room, already standing up with arms tauntingly spread wide. Kuroka accepted the taunt but not her defeat. Hey, fatty tuna is the best tasting fish. Don't make me come over there and shut your filthy mouth, Naya. Eel tastes better. It's too sweet. You're sweet. No, you're sweet. I look at you and I need my insulin shot. 9. Well, I prescribe you a dosage of vitamin D. As the usual cat and clown battle of banter ensued, entertaining the classroom with their back and forth of questionable insults that was flirts shouted as an insult, lined with a healthy shot of dirty jokes, the door opened once again as a shadow darkened the floorboard. And once again, the class turned silent, before launching boos at the newcomer. Appropriately, he began to look around in panic. What? I haven't even done anything. It's not the first time I'm late. What's the matter with you people? Sit the hell down, you monkey. Saji shouted as Biko, descendant of the legendary Sun Wukong, full-time butt monkey of a joke, if Saji wasn't around, marched to his seat in abject confusion. And Kuroka greeted her neighbor with a smug smirk. Hey, a transfer student. The hell was that about? Biko asked, upset as he unwrapped his red scarf and let it hang loosely over his shoulders. Just like most of the guys, he was dressed in sweater and sweatpants. His shoes were particularly recently bought, however, and Kuroka gave his chocolate boots a light tap with the sole of her boot. But not the Tims. Kuroka grinned ear to ear, not baring any of her perfect teeth and fangs, because Biko didn't deserve to see it. So what was that about? The Monkey King descendant asked, patting down his shoe to make sure this mangy cat didn't leave a mark. Oh, you know, we're just disappointed you're getting uglier by the day, Nyan. I'm not ugly, Biko stammered, feeling his face in horror. I'm handsome. I'm still at least a solid 8 on a nice day, 7 on bad. Already wasting her energy with the clown to bother herself humoring the monkey, Kuroka lied down on her arms as she decided to get a quick cat nap while the teacher wasn't around to nag at her. We're getting a new kid today, apparently, she huffed, rolling her tails around her legs to help them stay warm. Really? Again? But we got Shirina last semester. Don't look at me. I don't import overseas kids, Kuroka mumbled, and yawned seductively without effort, stirring those with sensitive hearings. She gave them a quick one-eyed wink. Just shut up and eat your banana. Banana? Man, of course you had to remind me. Biko sighed, suddenly disheartened. I ran out of bananas yesterday. Oh no, Kuroka said with tone as flat as someone's chest. No girls in this class was flat-chested, sadly enough. Why you gotta be so mean to me? What did I ever do to you? Existing. That's unreasonable. I can't just stop existing. Who do you think I am? Thanos? You're too short to be Thanos. And you're too white. His actor isn't even that tall. Not purple either. He's like eggplant purple. Drat, now I'm hungry. As the cat ignored the monkey's woes, the door swung open once again. But at this point, the entire class had gotten tired of having their expectations ruined and had lost their interest in whoever the new kid would be. The poisonous Monday morning gloom had finally seeped within their veins, eating away their motivations for the day despite they didn't have any school at Wednesdays. This time, the new entrant wasn't jeered with boos, because it was Roygun Belphegor who entered first, keeping the door open as she stood next to the high-tech whiteboard. We finally getting to see the new kid yet? Quiet, she warned whoever that was and waited until the class was as silent as a graveyard, then she peeked out the door. All right, come in, sweetheart. That was a leak, but Roygun rolled with it anyway because she couldn't be bothered. Despite their earlier disappointments, the students found themselves holding their breath and those on the back choreographically tilted their body to one side as they beheld their new kid, who walked in front of the not whiteboard. Good morning, he greeted. His voice was somewhat light for a guy, and he looked androgynous, add into the fact that he had no bust at all. I'm Xenovia Quarta, Dullahan. I hail from Rome, Italy, and I came here to experience a pleasant high school life. Pleased to be of your acquaintance. It was a boy, much to the silent joy of all parties. The girls were happy because of his overall clean, debonair look, and his voice wasn't as gruffy like the other boys. His fashion sense wasn't all bad either. A dark blue double-breasted cardigan coat over a dark blue plaid pants. A bit formal for school, but they supposed the fresh meat, new kid wanted to make a good first impression. Well, he certainly did, as several of the girls had started their murmurs. Unique blue hair with a green fringe, his hair was chin-length and deceptively straight despite it being quite fluffy. His dark yellow eyes were like a hawk's, sharp and clear. A bit on the lean side of figure and admittedly shorter than the rest of the guys, which exactly made their heart go doki doki because, at the very last, a cute short-stack handsome Bishaunen. Hey, he's pretty cute, Kuroka muttered, her pupils narrowing to a slit as she sniffed the air. Doesn't smell like a guy. Though can't tell if that's him or you. Get a shower, monkey? I do shower. I take baths 2 times a day, you should know. What makes you think I'm interested in your daily hygiene? You sniff people, that's why, Biko blandly said. Well anyway, you gotta stop doing that. What? I'm just saying, Naya. Not my fault I have a good nose. A pair of cute ears and a pair of cute slender tails. Dunno what makes you so confidently vain, but you don't sniff people from afar, Kuroneko, Biko told her. You gotta ask them for permission first? Huh, Kuroka shrugged. Fair point. Then you should ask forgiveness from other people for your smell. I don't smell. On the other end, Issei had started his own conversation with his table neighbor while Roygun started the introduction. What did you think of him? He asked, nudging Irina. Short, Irina replied with low energy. He's the same height as you. I'm short. Short fuse too, apparently. Irina sighed into her arms. I'm just glad I finally got rid of my new kid's moniker. Congratulations on your graduation, he promptly said. I bet in 3 weeks you'll start to miss that name. No, I won't. And quiet, sensei's looking at us, you'll get us in trouble. As for the boys, they were appeased, for they got a chance to corrupt another soul, as confirmed when Issei tossed a meaningful look to Saji, who then tossed the same nod to Biko, and continued the chain nodding to Tobio directly behind Biko, Kazuma at the back middle, and Nofumi at the end of Issei's column. These 6 made up the notorious 6 pit dwellers, remaining strong and corruptive even with the departure of their 2 members. No one expected the low-key, quiet kid of the class Nofumi Iwatani, a damper, to ever join their ranks, and yet there he was, finding his place in the Dark Brotherhood. Same could be said to Tobio Accuse. The teachers had expected more of him. They thought he would remain steadfast. They thought wrong. He fell into the sweet, calming embrace of the dark side, Not 2 weeks after meeting Hyoudou Issei, the circus operator and de facto leader, who then introduced him to his members. The butt monkey aka Biko, the wannabe jester aka Genshuru Saji, the black cat aka Kuroka, the dark lord Nolfomi, and Kazuma, the Kazuma. And of course, the infamous Eminem, and there were more. Yaka Kiryu the Cambion and Lilim the succubus were not to be taken lightly either, as these two had actively sought for innocent maidens to strengthen their ranks. All in all, Class 4A were ravenous pit dwellers, and they gleefully accepted the fresh blood to one day become a member of the pit, the nickname they had lovingly set for their class. The teachers unanimously, begrudgingly, agreed. Teaching them sometimes felt like trying to teach a pack of rabid baby-munching pit bulls how to line up for meat. Save for the few innocent souls there that were yet to be tainted by these pit dwellers, which amount to an astounding 7. All girls, no guys. And even then, the teachers were unable to find solace or faith in these 7 angels, as they had noticed hints of transformations from them. While those girls took no active part in the pit dwellers' antics, they laughed with them. That was a red flag in its own. Roygun couldn't care less because she thought these misfits were hilarious, and listening to other teachers' laments whenever they went out for a drink occasionally made her appreciate her day job as the school nurse even more. Well, here's to see if these new kids could remain whoever they were before they entered the pit. Roygun should consider starting a bet with other teachers, now that she thought of it. Speaking of which, where's the other one? Glancing at the still open door, Roygun furrowed her brows as she noticed the other girl didn't come in yet. You there? What are you doing outside? And from outside the classroom, a light feminine voice replied, Oh, right now? But that person hasn't yet done their introduction. That person is Xenovia and your new classmate. Come in here. You take turns, Roygun replied, pitying Rosweiss already. It was then the pit dwellers learned they weren't getting 1 transfer student, but 2. All on the same day. Oh shit, Issei muttered as he looked at Issei. Dude, are we in a movie? If we are, then you're the joke character. Wha? Why me? We got Biko. You and him are the comic relief. No we're not, Saji scoffed, then pathetically looked at his girlfriend for a moral boost. Momo-chan, let's say we're in a movie, I won't be the comic relief, right? Momo didn't even bat an eye. Why don't you ask sensei, Genshuru-san? Saji clutched his heart in terror. See cold. Come on, I was just joking. So you truly are the comic relief, Momo said, every part the ice queen. Genshuru Genji slumped down to his desk, emotionally defeated, only to perk his head up as the new girl made her entrance with a cheerful voice. That was strangely familiar. Hello everyone. It's your favorite Mao Xiaozhou. Remember me? I came here last year for a photo shoot. Wait, she put her flamboyant idol-like introduction as well as her pose on hold as she scanned the room. Where's my Senaton? Disturbingly familiar, rather. Saji's ashen eyes widened. His jaw slackened. Black hair tied to twin tails. Obnoxiously pink dress with white frills that made her look like a poorly decorated birthday cake with white frostings. Large violet eyes full of energy. Jesus Christ, that's Sona's sister. But what? She said she wouldn't graduate until next year. Roygun stared at the new kid. Famous actress or idol or whatnot, she was not paid enough for this. And when exactly did she tell you that, Miss Serafal? Last year. With a deep breath, Roygun exhaled a sigh just as deep. This idol is an idiot. Odin's beard, Rosweiss, you just couldn't catch a break, can you? Right? Did you know she already graduated? She's in the next building. The university building. I don't know. I was busy last year, Serafal whined, sighing melancholically, already transforming back to her winter wear, cute coat and skirt. Surprisingly not as flashy as Roygun had expected, yet decently fashionable. Is it too late to ask for another transfer? Yeah, I'm not the one you should be asking, Mrs. Bo Peep. Roygun moved on quickly from that slip-up. As your temporary homeroom teacher, I'm contractually obliged to give you a warm welcome. So that was my warm welcome. Go ahead and pick your seat, which should be that corner over there. But Biko raised his hand and spoke without permission anyway, stopping the fresh meats from walking off. Come on, sensei. Don't we get to ask questions first? You don't need to ask her number to know she won't give it to you, Biko. We've been through this, quipped Issei, loud enough so that the entire class could hear and giggle at the monkey. First of all, wait for my permission to speak, Biko. Second of all, look at the time. You kids should be learning. What is it again? Not math. Thank you, Lilim. Roygun smiled to the black-haired succubus at the front. The other kids groaned at her, but Lilim didn't care because she enjoyed watching they go through torture. So save the questions for lunch break, and try not to hound on any of them. I'm not joking when I told you to be mindful of their personal space, and don't take my words as a challenge, understand? Yes, Mum. Nobody called her mom this time. Roygun mentally patted herself on the back. Then Issei raised his hand, and since he actually waited, Roygun gave him a sigh. Yes? I think I should sit with the new guy. Mary Poppins there can have my seat. Who's a Mary Poppins? I'm the strongest idol. You sure you're related to Sona? Of course I am. We're practically twins. Can't you see the similarity? If she's right here, you won't be able to tell the difference. Because Sona Citri would wear that sparkly costume she put on earlier. And Serafal might be disappointed with the lukewarm reception, but none of the pupils here were into idols as they were not. Most of them were already 18, and some were even 19. Issei and Kuroka were the eldest until Serafal came and shared the same spot. As for Issei, regarding idols, he hadn't heard of this Serafal person other than the fact she was apparently Sona's sister. Probably adopted. Other than that, the only idols he was interested in were comedians pretending they were idols. Meanwhile, Roygun mulled that rather thoughtful suggestion, but she could see his main motive was not to ensure comfort but to initiate the new guy. Who is a girl? But since Xenovia hadn't bothered to correct it, she supposed things might be fun if she just let it be. But then again, the good teacher's side of her knew this would be a bad idea. And yet again, she was a devil. Temptations and bad ideas tickled her fancy like a feather. While she considered it, Irina gave a crude stare at Issei. What do you mean? What do you mean, what do I mean? Issei retorted. Look at him. You can tell he's gonna be the awkward kind from a mile away. Besides, you and that thing have twin tails. You can I dunno, connect better with each other? I'm a Nephilim, not an alien. Irina blurted, whisper shouting still. She's too flashy even for me. You were a Chuyuni once. Maybe she can relate to you. A wave of embarrassment took form as a red blush over her cheeks. Why did you need to bring that up? How is that relevant? Come on, you and me are like the best guys for this kind of thing. You're great at making people comfortable and I'm great at making people laugh. Issei managed to correct himself from spilling his true intention. Seeing Irina still didn't approve of his idea, he resorted to play dirty and tug her heartstring. And you think I'm gonna let someone else sit at the sacred corner? Irina immediately thought about it, having second thoughts as she recalled the story of the M&M and how big of an impact they were for a certain person. The sacred corner was what the pit dwellers named the only empty pair of tables in their classroom, right at the far left corner. It had remained empty ever since those two left. She heard from Kiryu that it was one long week of unbearable silence, that time early in July. Just a week before their first final exams, where the M&M left one day after another. It was the only time of the year where Issei never cracked a single joke and couldn't focus on his study or anything. And the next classroom's teachers stopped making noise complaints. That made Irina and perhaps everyone in Class 4A realize how much those numbskulls meant to him. For the very first time, even for those who had only known him for even less than 4 months, they felt genuine sadness for their sad clown. The laughter they shared was never as loud when the notorious trio became the notorious one. Then they got over it the very next week and moved on, while Issei still occasionally found himself reminiscing about their golden age when he thought nobody was looking. As Irina was weak for this kind of sentimentality, she had no choice but to let him go. All right. Issei gave her a nod and a smirk of a smile. Try not to miss me. Irina snorted. Fair enough, Roygun had decided then. Go ahead and move, Hyoudou. I get a better view of you anyway. Issei stood up as he replied with a dramatic flair. You leaked my true intention for the whole class to hear, sensei. Roygun lightly shook her head as the whole class giggled and tittered. She nudged the two new girls to join their new neighbors, and she idly watched as Issei fist-bumped the boys as he passed by them. No doubt celebrating the success of stage one of their plan. Silly little kids. Yo, Issei nodded at his new neighbor as he seated himself right next to Fresh Meat, who had chosen to sit next to the window. He wanted to sit there, but sacrifices were to be made for a greater cause. I'm Hyoudou Issei. My friends call me Ise or Hyoudou Issei. Pleased to meet you, Hyoudou-san? Xenovia guessed. My apologies. My Japanese isn't perfect. I can speak all right English if you wanna, he shrugged. But I guess you'd want to stick with Japanese until you get used to it, right? Indeed, Xenovia dipped her head lightly. Issei momentarily paid attention to his head to see if it would fall off. He was mildly disappointed. How do I call you then? Xeno-kun? Via-kun? Quartz? The blue-haired androgynous boy stared at him with an unamused stare. My name is Xenovia. That is how others call me. Xenovia. First name basis already, eh? I do think formality is overrated. Nonsense. Formality is necessary. Issei noncommittally replied, not planning to deal with this right now because he could feel Roygun's glare already. And these two in front of you are accused Tobio and Natsuminamina. Toby's not that smart, but he runs pretty fast and he's our jock and watchdog. Ever got yourself in any trouble? You come see me, and I'll get you to him if you're scared of him. I can protect myself, Xenovia said. I'm not scared of anyone. Of course, but what's the harm of having someone who can watch your back, eh? Issei smoothly said, and Xenovia genuinely put his words into consideration, nodding as she realized she couldn't watch her back unless she carried a rear mirror. With that, he continued. Natsum's good at everything. She's like a wizard. A nerd wizard, but a wizard nonetheless. It's Minagawa, Hyu, the brunette human girl with a bun grumbled, sparing him a joking glare as she waved a quick hi at her new classmate, along with a nice smile. Hey, how'd you do? Tobio then followed, turning only his head to look past his shoulders, his pair of black wolf ears sticking out from his tufts of hair. And Idasisi, I will but not yours. Try Lilim. Xenovia bowed her head in return, kindly look after me. Sure thing, Tobio said. But not right now. My eyes and ears are supposed to be facing the board. We'll chat later, new guy. Said board that was starting to display numbers, cubes, squares and equations and formulas that Issei knew he wouldn't be able to understand if he paid attention, so he didn't waste his effort. New guy? Yeah, that's gonna stick around for a while. You'll get used to it. Treat it like a badge of honor, Issei suggested, and Xenovia duly nodded, determined to do just so. Since class is about to start, I can't talk much, but I'll get you introduced to the rest of these misfits here if you stick with me, alright? They're all nice guys and girls. For the most part. I swear. I see. You have honored me with your trust, and you shall have mine. I swear on the name of my adoptive mother. Dullahan had always had this 90-year-old way of talking, and he didn't want to make a big deal of someone being adopted, especially after meeting Kiba. So Issei simply moved on. You adopted your mother? Didn't know you could do that? Xenovia stared at him, blinked 3 times, and completely missed the joke that had flown over her head. She adopted me, she clarified. He had forgotten how literal-minded Dullahan were. Right, yes, he sighed. We'll work on that. Work on what? The humor thing. Don't worry about it. Boy, you'd be one hell of a pair with Vivi. He muttered under his breath. What? He blinked. HM? Did I say something? I'm fairly certain you did. Really? Must have been the wind. Xenovia glanced to her left, then the entire window. But the windows are shut? Ghosts then, I dunno. Ditch ghost? Issei paused, smelling. An opportunity like a shark. He watched the Dullahan's nightly composure break down piece by piece as Xenovia skittishly glanced around, her blue bangs swaying as her eyes scanned the room for ghosts. Oh no. Oh no no no. Dear Xenovia, you poor soul. You have no idea how much of a sadist Issei could be to anyone scared of ghosts, and how well-invioled Leviathan could tell a chilling ghost story, complete with the visual effects since she was a devil. Yeah. Ghosts. Spirits and stuff, he said, purposely nonchalant, pretending he hadn't noticed the new kid's fear of the spookies, pretending that he hadn't noticed the trembling of his hands. I mean, you're in Japan and Kuoh is a sorta rural town. This school is just weird since it's so out of place fancy. Not that I'm complaining because you can have anything you ever want from a school life here. But some say this place is pretty haunted. Please stop. Xenovia squeaked, her voice becoming several pitches higher as she leaked her feminine voice. She cleared her throat and acted like it was nothing. I don't believe in nonsense, and I don't think a school is the right place to tell such tall tales. Oh, but you're in Japan now. When in Rome, do as the Romans do, Emmy. But? And sorry to say, Xeno-kun, but spirits and ghosts are already around us. In fact, there are several in this classroom already. You can feel the air is colder here than outside, right? Even though the AC is turned off. That would be due to the presence of Momo, their classroom's walking conditioner, but Xenovia didn't know that yet and Issei didn't have the kindness in him to tell. However, when Xenovia's face went ghastly pale and mute and the choker-like tattoo on his neck began to spark, Issei pulled the handbrake. Hey Hichil, he said in a calming tone. The same kind of tone he'd used to tame a wild animal. Or a crying kunu who hit her head on something hard. The spirits here are nice and cool spirits, okay? He assured, patting Xenovia's disturbingly cold hand. Jesus, you're colder than a vampire. Relax, all right? Japanese ghosts or spirits won't hurt people. They get fined if they do. Anything scary you hear or learn about them is all made up. Therefore you don't have anything to fear, yeah? Xenovia's look nearly made him question his sexuality. Are you certain? Yes, I'm certainly certain, Issei sighed at his short-stacked neighbor. I swear on me Muther. I was teasing you. Sorry if I scared you too much. I wasn't scared. Whoever said I was scared? Xenovia straightened her posture, fooling nobody. Not even Tobio, who was quietly snickering, getting slapped in the wrist by Natsum for it. You surprisingly have a cute side, don't you, new guy? You'll be popular with the girls in no time. They'll want to put you in their pocket, Issei grinned, barely containing his wicked intention. Don't worry about ghosts or spirits, princess. I'll protect you. Protect me? Yeah, Issei glanced at the new kid/guy, only to look confused when he found he was blushing. This brings me dislikable memories. Just so we're straight and so I don't cross boundaries, you're not gay, aren't you? Xenovia did not comprehend. Gay? But attracted to guys? There's nothing wrong with it, you know. The girls love it. We're kinda icky about that kind of thing, but we'll support ya. No, Xenovia exclaimed. I'm a knight. I protect and serve, not dilly-dally with callow love affairs. As all eyes turned on him, Issei knew he had screwed himself. All right, Lancelot, no need to shout. Hyoudou. Having time to tease the new kid already? Why don't you spare a time to answer this question for me? Ah fuck, he cursed, causing Xenovia to wince, just like Irina did the first time they met again. All right. I'll be right back, rookie. Watch this. So he got up and confidently strutted forward, gallantly nabbing the stylus from Roygun's extended hand, receiving a not-so-subtle wink that reminded him he had gotten his afternoon booked, and marched towards the screen. With knuckles of one hand placed under his chin, Hyoudou Issei activated all his brain cells and forced them to work, and he was met with powerful resistance because they refused to cooperate and had set up strikes in various synapses of his brain. With that, with one confident nod, and one anime protagonist chuckle, Issei returned and handed the stylus back to Roygun, who still had her palm open, completely expecting this outcome. You almost did it. You were so close. Thank you, sensei. I tried my best. Roygun smiled. Why don't you accompany me again and stand over there? Bring your notepad with you. It will be an honor. I'll honor you, all right? Until you get a question right, you're honor-bound to not return to your seat. Issei, no matter how stalwart, felt his life deflated upon hearing that term. I get to stay with sensei for the entire lesson. How romantic. Don't worry, Roygun chuckled. I'll guide you. Marry me, sensei. His straightforward look nearly made her heart skip a bit. Or it already did and she was just too proud to admit it. A step at a time, Hyoudou. One step at a time. The entire class except Xenovia held back their laughter poorly, practically corpsing at one point. Saji almost cried. Biko already cried the moment he saw the look on Issei's face. He was like a man on a mission. He was ready for war, but the moment he was about to enter the battle and saw his enemies, he walked away without a fight. What a gallant display of sheer will and stupidity. And then the girls went and did their little squeal at the clown and the nurse's interactions, while the boys secretly wished they were Issei. Xenovia did watch, but she was confused as to what this she was supposed to watch. His shameful display of a student? Surely not. Perhaps it was a riddle. Her old school used to test their students with riddles. As the laughter settled and the class turned back from a circus into an actual class, the person in front of him twisted his body around. "Hey, new kid." Xenovia looked up to him, still mystified about Issei's meaning but decided to postpone it. Yes? He was supposed to say this, but since he's stuck there for the next hour, the Wolfman guy reached out his hand, and Xenovia shook it firmly. Tobio was surprised at how small his hand was and how slender he was compared to him, but then again, Tobio wasn't a manlet, so he instead delivered the message straight, and marked the end of the initiation with a sentence that was all too familiar of a greeting to the dwellers. "Welcome to the pit." The lunch bell rang and the students cheered with joy for their torture had been put on hold. And Roygun wasted no time in packing her stuff because she, too, enjoyed stuffing her stomach with good food, and was not one of the overcommit teachers who plow through an entire chapter of a material in one study session. She knew students couldn't cram all subjects in their head. Not even the teachers could do that. Except for Rossweiss, but she was a freak. Roygun wouldn't be surprised if that Valkyrie had two brains. As she stretched her hands, yawning and groaning effortlessly sexy, giving the boys a just reward for listening to her and not screwing around as much, Roygun gave the entire class one last glance. Particularly at the new transfer students. Serafal Citri had already made herself the center of attention and seemed to be relishing in it, answering some of the risque questions from the class Cambion and the succubus pair. As expected from being an idol actress thing, whatever the kids called it. Roygun doubted she had to worry about Sona's older sister for settling in, although her arrival was indeed shocking, and in the 11th hour too. She registered and enrolled on this very day, in fact. Whether Sona Citri was made aware of her arrival was still one to be seen. It appeared the pit had gained themselves another energetic twin-tail, just less tomboy and more girly. Not that Class 4A was lacking in the girly department, but it was the class with most tomboys in it. Shido Irina, Erika Chiba, Meguri Tomo, and positively that new Dullahan Xenovia Korda. As for her, Roygun was a little hesitant to trust the female Dullahan to the circus runner, more so since he didn't seem to have found out Xenovia was a girl with a tightly wrapped chest. Not good for one's health, and Roygun was entirely against the idea, but as it was Dullahan's custom and their body was sturdier than most thanks to their heritage, there was little the school nurse could do. What kind of trouble would Issei bring her to, she idly wondered. Although, in spite of everything, Hyoudou Issei was a generally good student. Disturbingly adept at reading people's emotions and comfortableness, and quick to apologize if he overstepped a line. He was a creepy pervert during his first year at school, and it took him a while to get rid of that reputation, but he had more than redeemed himself by practically making everyone who spent 5 minutes with him laugh along with him at something. Other than his wide sense of humor, he had never gotten himself into fights. He broke up plenty, rather, because he was friends with both wannabe fighters and had them made up on the spot, and brought the guys to a ramen shop to give him a treat. A bit of a tease, but nothing too far. Everyone had a bit of a tease in them, they just didn't know it. Just as everyone is a pervert in one way or another, underneath all their modesty and fake innocence. Except for Ingvilde Vivi Leviathan, who was happy just to feel belonged. Hyoudou Issei was academically average, at most, but no one's a perfect student. Even Himejima Suzaku, the class genius, had trouble making friends her age and was a sheltered kid who kept mostly to herself, especially when Rias or Aquino were busy with their club activities. It wasn't until this year where she stayed behind and became part of the pit, the Vermilion Bird finally learned how to smile and relax. No doubt being near Tobio and Natsum had a major role in warming up and melting her ironically Ice Queen demeanor, but Roygun believed the entire class played their part. The pit might have a notorious reputation with the teachers, but even so, none of them could deny that it was the class where everyone felt like they were part of a family. And for an unexpectedly heartwarming reason too. With that in mind, Roygun left the class and entrusted the new kid to her new date. She wished the two nothing but the best, not that Roygun would ever say that aloud. She was their strict and devilish substitute homeroom teacher. Having a semi-parental-like bond with the kids was Rosweiss's job, not hers. Speaking of the new kid, Issei didn't wait to get Xenovia acquainted with the class by giving her a quick tour around with everyone who hadn't yet left for the school cafeteria. And these two sloths are Kuroka and Biko. Issei then gestured his hand as if to present the two assholes. One was planning to taking a quick cat nap since the lunch break lasted an hour, while the latter was just about to raid the canteen, stopping only because Issei was there with the new kid. Queen flirt and butt of the jokes Biko, continued Issei, causing Kuroka to give the new kid a playful wink whilst Biko seemed like he was about to throw something at Issei. The cat and the monkey. Which one's the cat is pretty easy to tell since she has those big ears the size of her face. Biko's called the monkey because he's Sun Wukong's descendant. Believe it or not. And he can climb a tree to get down a stuck ball in a snap, so he's got that going for him. Don't stay near them too much if you don't want to catch the fleas. Kuroka didn't lift her head from her arms, but she did lift one hand to flip him the bird. Oh, hello. Although disturbed by these clear violations of the social norms taught in her old school, Xenovia assumed this was how normal schools operated. She then bowed her head, in a somewhat awkward, stiff manner. How do you do? I'm Xenovia Quarta. Yo, Biko. Biko gave the Dullahan an upward nod. The casual greeting for all men without necessarily being friends with one another. That said, the Monkey King progeny had better things to do. Things like ensuring he wouldn't starve. I'd stay but I'm starving man. Hey Lilim. Wait for me, he shouted to the only black-haired girl in the class, who hung by the door to wait for the monkey. Then Biko scanned the room like a monkey looking around for predators. Where's Kaz? Already left. Dude's got a new girlfriend. Second year. Some wizard kid apparently. Biko raised his brows. No shit? I thought he was dating Darkness. Still is. He dates the Darkness? Xenovia muttered quietly, puzzled once again by this class creatures. Luckily she had Issei to set her straight. No. It's a nickname. You remember the blonde girl, ponytail, sitting next to our seat with another guy? Less handsome than me, shorter, and normally has a grin on his face. As she was perceptive, at least she liked to see herself as such, Xenovia quickly recognized the girl he meant. Yeah. Her name is... What was it again? Being stared at for help, Biko fumbled his words as he scrambled his memories. Something to... Latina? I dunno man. Fucking royal vampires and their long-ass names. Issei chuckled, and his chuckle turned into a snort as he saw Xenovia's look of disapproval. Quite the stiff dwarf Dullahan, isn't he? Yeah. Well, maybe we'll run into her. He's got two already? Can't believe I'm being left behind by fucking Kaz. Aren't you close with Isabella? What? For B-Demon? Short spiky brown hair, wears a mask and crop tops all the time even in winter. Stacked as hell. Nah? Biko waved his hand dismissively, laughing at the rumor. We just go to places together. Girl's got a good vibe and don't bully me like this friggin' cat. What, you fancy her? Want me to introduce you? Because she's into you, you monkey brain. Issei took a moment to wish Isabella all the luck in the world to finally break this monkey's thick skull. Nah, Issei instead said, wisely staying out of his friend's density lest he caught it. At least Biko was still the gentleman, unlike Saji that was nowhere to be found. Possibly begging Momo for forgiveness. Hey monkey! Hurry it up! And Lilim's shout marked the end of their conversation. SEC! Biko shouted back, looking back at the jester. You comin'? You go on ahead, Issei told him, placing a hand over Xenovia's unexpectedly fluffy wavy hair, failing to notice the light blush coloring the Dullahan's pale cheeks. Someone's gotta give the rookie his tour. Unless he's already hungry, that is. And no, Xenovia stammered, clearing her throat. I'm fine. I've had breakfast. Well, see you later then. Biko smiled a snide smile. Every bit the class rep it? And Issei scowled. That day of betrayal was forever seared in the annals of his memories. Screw by the traitor. Biko, leave me hanging any longer and I'll fucking eat you for lunch. Yeah, the whole class voted for you, Prez, laughed Biko as he strided away, leaving the clown to his devices as he rejoined the succubus, then getting kicked in the shin the next instant as his cry could be heard from where Issei stood. As she watched her classmate leave the room with another flock of classmates, Xenovia peered back to the black cat who had already buried her face in her arms. Is she all right? Does she lack sustenance? Issei nearly failed to keep himself from snorting, but he managed. Kuroka, on the other hand, had lifted her face back up to display her facetious grin. Sustenance. Why, I see one standing right before me, Nyan, she purred, half-lidded cat eyes staring at the fresh meat. You smell nice. Xenovia, being Xenovia, and mostly unaware of needless things such as flirting and play on words, took the flirt as a compliment. Thank you. I believe good grooming and cleanliness is essential to enjoy a good life. You're cute, Kuroka hummed. If you're a girl I would have gobbled you up. Although I don't mind cute boys from time to time. Noting the growing concern on his junior's face as the Dullahan seemed to have no available stock response for this kind of social situation, Issei bailed him out. All right, you headpat slut, quit bullying the rookie. Fine. If you're leaving, get me a hojichanaya. Hot. If I don't have to wait, sure. Thanks. Love you. Love you too. Kuroka yawned as Issei led her prey away. Not having enough energy stored, more so in this damned cold weather, the black cat simply snoozed her break away. A good nap was every bit a better investment than walking down 3 floors, complaining and groaning about the school not having an elevator like the university building, just to get to the cafeteria. Midway out of the class, Xenovia glanced up at her Sherpa. She felt a bit self-conscious to only be as tall as his shoulders, but she quickly kicked that weakening notion away. She's not going to eat? She's a Nikomata. Nekishu. Cat spirit person. Just like cats, she doesn't eat much. Her sister, on the other hand, let's just say not all Nekishu eat like a bird. Earlier she said she wishes to gobble me up. Does that mean she's threatening me? No, you innocent bastard. By that she meant the other thing. She's going to eat me? More or less. Issei simply laughed. But no. Especially when the nights are getting colder, she brings people to her room. Only girls so far so she can sleep with them. In the most literal way before you're getting any pervy ideas. She spoils them, pillow talk them, potentially stroke their ears if they have any, until they fall asleep in her arms. I heard of this activity, a sleepover, right? The activity you do with your friends to strengthen your bond. Yep, Issei blandly nodded, smiling at this walking thesaurus. If you can't tell, she loves keeping herself warmer. Xenovia glanced back at the frivolous cat, and did note that her winter coat was the thickest compared to the rest of the pupils here. And she's got a bit of a doting older sister issues, you see. Her little sister has grown up too much to not get embarrassed when she gets touchy-feely with her, so Kuroka just nabs anyone that doesn't refuse her spoiling. She doesn't mean any harm. Most of the time anyway. I see. Xenovia wasn't entirely sure what any of that meant, especially with that vague addition at the end of his sentence. For the time being, she resolved to never lower her guard anywhere around the black cat. She sometimes helps out at a daycare. Usually on Wednesday. Watamelin Daycare, if you've heard of it. The mascot is a chibi sheep girl wearing a watermelon helmet. Xenovia gasped, recognizing the mental picture. That's where my mother works. I thought it was an orphanage. It's both, Issei said. But what a coincidence, eh? I used to work part-time there 2 years ago, but I realized I wasn't great with kids. Me neither, the Dullahan admitted sheepishly. I don't understand why they are always screaming or crying when they aren't sleeping. Yeah, sometime you just want to put them to sleep. Xenovia worryingly stared at Issei. I'm kidding. You me both then. Some people are just not made to handle kids, you know? Issei sniggered. Hey, let's pay a visit sometime. Screw around with Kuro a bit. She's almost immune to teases, you see, and that grinds my gear a bit. Screws? Do you require bolts? And I'm a decent mechanic, if you need any help. Let's not worry about that. But thanks. And thus, her impromptu tour continued, as Issei led her to a group of girls currently marauding their new idol and already squealing over some hot gossip or girly stuff like that. And these are the banshees. He interrupted the flow of their conversation as Issei brought up the new kid alongside him, currently looking up at him with stark confusion in his sunflower yellow eyes. Because they shriek and squeal a lot at every little thing, said banshees, glared at him in unison, but their glares melted away when they spotted the new kid, currently standing next to Issei and appearing smaller than he actually was since Issei was fairly tall. Good morning, Xenovia dipped her head in a curtsy. I'm Xenovia Quarta. I hope we may get along well. We'll get along well all right, the Cambion Ika Kiryu, word in her casually seductive tone. Ika Kiryu. Angel. Lies. Irina immediately chirped. She's a Cambion. Don't listen to her and always take her words with a grain of salt. The entire shaker if you have to. You never let me have any fun, Kiryu whined playfully, then just as playfully glanced at the new kid. I see you're already getting pretty chummy with our class pres HM? Watch yourself, you already have plenty of competition, ow. Irina pretended she hadn't kicked Kiryu's leg under the table. Hello. I'm Hyoudou Irina. I'm the half-angel here, not her. I can prove it to you, I have wings. And I'm her long-lost twin sister. And I also have wings. We're basically sisters from another mother, the other new kid then exclaimed, making a point as she held her twin tails by their base before reaching out a hand. Let's do our best and be friends with everyone in this class, shall we? And that means you too, class pres. Irina-chan talked a lot about Issei cocked a single eyebrow as Irina placed her hand over Seraphal's mouth, who was still talking despite her muffled voice. Oh, I see. WL met, the Dullahan nodded, still not yet adapted to her new noticeably louder environment. Well, Ms. Nephilim, if you ever find yourself desperate for protection against the dark forces, then don't hold back and see me, I'll protect you. The pink bunny girl Kaites and the brunette dog girl Murayama both looked at each other, clasped their hands, and squealed at their new knightly prince. He was every bit the reincarnation of Yudo Kiba. He was even a Dullahan like their high school prince. That Chuni-like statement spoken unironically, however, immediately relit the repressed Chunibyu in Irina's heart as she excitedly replied with a puffed-out chest making her appear bustier than she was. A fellow servant to the light. Together we'll stand firm against the clutches of evil. As Xenovia gave her a firm nod and a confident look, believing she had found herself an ally of justice, Issei couldn't help himself from rolling his eyes as he muttered, "Oh boy, here we go again." "Oh believe me," the Cambion then muttered, loud enough for the group to pick it up, "she won't be needing any protection anytime soon." This guy on the other hand, "Oh yeah. Oh right." Inagami Murayama giddily barked, her curly Shiba Inu-like tail wagging behind her back, happily sweeping her slim-fit jeans. "Oh my gosh, I'm so excited I don't know where to start. How do you feel right now, Cap?" "Over the moon?" Kaites chimed in. Although not as hyper as her closest friend, Usajiyama Kaites was by no means calm. She was calmest during class, but she knew how to be hyped from a spicy event such as the one they had this morning. So, actually, it's no big deal." "Yeah right, it's not a big deal," Kiryu snorted. "Don't try to play it cool, Hyoudou Issei. I know you're hyped. Well, that's what you think and not how I feel. But I got a dead heart for romance stuff, so what do I know? You're making a mountain out of molehills. Speaking of mountains, Roigun-sensei has 2 of them. Safe climbing, Hyoudou Issei. Thanks. I'll tell you stories of how I managed to reach the peak. Can't wait." With a shit-eating grin, Issei finally broke his nonchalant cool guy demeanor as he fist-bumped the Cambion. The majority of the girls stared at them with judgmental stares. Except Xenovia and Seraphal. The former because she had no idea how a person could possibly possess a gigantic natural landform on wherever it might be, while the latter was too busy gaping her mouth open from the shock. Why you're dating the teacher? Temporarily. Probably, Issei shrugged. Where's Vivi by the by? He glanced around, failing to find the aforementioned she-half-devil. I'm here. And Veiled Leviathan entered the classroom, a girl outfitted in a coat nearly as thick as Kuroka's, her lavender hair and ears tucked under her purple beanie. Hello. Hi. Speak of the devil. This is Veiled. Issei restarted as the Leviathan snuck herself between Hyatus and Murayama in search of warmth and generally just wanting to be in between her friends. The two happily cuddled the adorable little devil. Their little owl. The class cinnamon roll that must be protected at all costs. Issei returned her tiny wave with his own as he continued. Everyone kinda melts whenever she speaks. Or just stand around doing nothing. Excellent singer too, you'll be surprised how far her vocal range is. That gave Seraphal an idea. Hey, we should duet one day. You wanna try being an idol? No thanks, Veiled politely declined. But I'll be happy to sing with you. That's an idea, actually. Issei realized as he turned to his secretary. Kiryu? Noting the authoritative voice, Kiryu jokingly straightened her sitting posture. Yes, boss. We haven't spent shit from our savings this month, right? Yes, boss. We haven't spent shit from our savings. See how many can free up their schedule this Wednesday if possible, he said, and already the girls were looking up to him as if he had just agreed to buy each one of them a new pair of branded shoes. Karaoke at the Phoenix at 5? 5 sounds good. I'm planning to sleep until 3 and pretty sure Kuroneko will too. 5 then. 5 to 8. I'll make the booking, Issei said, not realizing Xenovia was staring at him with renewed sense of respect. Like a knight that had found the king they wanted to serve. Let's have a welcoming party for these two new bloods. Roger Doger. Kiryu saluted as she took out her trusty multi-tool, her smartphone, and rapidly typed his message in the class group chat, as every student who was still in the classroom received notification with the same ringtone in their phone. It has been done, bossman. Excellent work. He could have just typed it on his own, but Issei wanted to abuse his position as the class pres a bit. Whoa. We go in karaoke babby. I love you Hyoudou. And that screaming baboon outside is Genji, Genshurusaji, Issei casually told Xenovia, a smug smirk on his face, proud of having a competent hype man that was necessary to keep the class excitement higher than the ceiling. He didn't even need to be in the class to make the students there thrilled about their impromptu class trip. Think our mommy Rossi can come? Kiryu said, loud enough over the squealing of her girlier banshee friends. I dunno. Pretty sure she's done with work at 4. Should I get Roigun-sensei too? You should, so it won't be awkward for our mom. You right. You're so smart, secretary. This is why I paid you. I don't get paid. Me neither. At least people think you run this place. They think I'm your slave. Issei didn't miss a bet. I do and you are. Already bouncing on the balls of her feet, barely able to contain her excitement, Veiled Leviathan asked the class lead with a childlike wonder. Are we going? Are we? Well now we have to. Who'd want to ever disappoint you, Vivi? Yay. Hyatus and Murayama both melted even more as she hugged their precious little daughter, who was starting to look uncomfortable from all the heat but didn't want to be rude and just accepted her fate of being squished between the dog and the bunny. See cute? Xenovia blurted under her breath, her eyes broadening. How could someone be so tiny yet so bewitching? Was this the work of the she-devil? But Issei caught her slip of the tongue. Yeah. You like your girls cute, eh? Well, Vivi's adorable as hell, but if you, or anyone for that matter, ever hurt her in any way, shape, or form, then they'll have to deal with the entire classroom. Xenovia gulped a little, having the sense to realize that wasn't a joke since everyone was staring at her with a look that made her worry. I didn't mean. Relax, tough guy, Issei then sniggered, once again placing his palm over Xenovia's hair to give his new toy friend a ruffle. Once again catching Xenovia off guard, as yet again she was powerless to prevent her face from feeling a mite warmer. The girls practically lived and breathed for this kind of bromance interaction. It helped that Xenovia's kind of blush was the flowering kind, the faint pink that slowly and gently bloomed into a deep shade of red that left few to the imagination. The class clown and the new kid, Kiryu muttered, adding gasoline into the bonfire of their girly imagination. The imagination of Hyoudou and Murayama in particular, whose wild thoughts were starting to run amok in their head as they pictured the two male students participating in a certain activity that involved getting close with each other's bodies. Little did they know. But don't make it weird, you BL-loving freaks. Leave our fantasy alone. We're free to think whatever we want. Murayama defended vehemently. At least don't make it too obvious, you mutt. And the Inagami yokai scoffed, throwing her head away. Meanwhile, as she was not particularly up to date with this kind of sudden getaway and planning, Xenovia tugged on Issei's sweater sleeve. Is it all right for me to join? I'd hate to intrude. What are you on about? This party's for you, you know, her touchy-feely friend said as he got touchy-feely again, ruffling her hair as if she was a kid. Xenovia should feel offended by this demeaning gesture or even mad, but yet, she kinda liked it. Therefore she wasn't able to say anything, afraid he might stop forever if she spoke up. You're one of us now, Issei said, taking his hand away because Hyoudou and Murayama were making his normal guy-to-guy interaction weird again. As per tradition. That means you as well, Sparkles. Welcome to the club. Seraphal beamed. A nickname this soon? Why thank you. I feel so welcomed already. A word of caution, don't be early. No one's gonna be early. At least be 5 minutes late, or you're just gonna be sitting there awkwardly, alone. Like Shirina did that one time. A blush invaded Irina's cheeks. Hey. She thought she was getting pranked. Kiryu giggled at the memory. Her face when she saw all of us was the most adorable thing. Next to Vivi, that is. Still with a quaint little smile on her face, Ingvild checked whoever was standing next to her. She saw Hyoudou who smiled back at her and pulled herself into a hug again because she couldn't help herself. Meep. Can I invite my sister? Let's keep this strictly in for. Issei said, feeling the girls were trying to telepathically scream their don't. We don't do +1s, otherwise our class will run out of money. I can pitch in and pay for her? It's a class activity and it's gonna use the class savings. Sorry, Saratan, but we can't accept bribes. Seraphal wilted a little. Oh. The girls said nothing because none of them wanted the iron-fisted Sona Citri to be part of their class but didn't want to hurt her sister's feelings. Much as they would pay to see how Sona would handle this spunky elder sister of hers, they doubted Sona could fit in with the pit. If anything, she'd either freak out or try to revolutionize it. Watching her clash with Issei, who would hold his ground, might be the greatest match in Kuoh Academy history, but they'd rather not risk him getting the boot. Sensing the awkward air as nobody knew how to follow it up, Issei put on his big boy pants. So, can I have your autograph? Saratan? A gasp. Why certainly. Do you have any paper with you? Don't give him that, Kiryu said. He's just gonna pawn it off. Ahanibe. See? He doesn't even have the decency to at least deny it. Oh, it's fine, it's fine. Anything for my friend, right? That raised a flag as well as one of Issei's eyebrows as he glanced at Irina, who smiled sadly at him, her shoulders shrugging once. That was all the confirmation he needed to get a grasp of their issue. And I was just pulling your legs, Sparkles, he instead said. No one here will befriend you just because you're an idol. Seraphal looked visibly hurt at that statement, but she kept her smile. Issei wasn't finished, however, and before she could mutter a word he continued, Look, we understand you want to be liked by everyone, all right? But we don't care if you've memorized 1,000 dance routines or have performed in front of thousands, which is impressive. But we'll be your friends regardless of who you are. If you're a street sweeper or an idol or the incarnation of a frickin' god. Don't bother being fake, no one here is fake. Keep it real. Seraphal's smile dimmed a little, feeling a feeling she couldn't decipher just yet as it was her first. If you know who I am, you won't say that. You don't know that. You really mean that? Of course, boasted Issei, chest puffed. That's this class motto. Made by me. I came up with that when these little gremlins conspired against me to be their ringleader. Seraphal cocked her head. Ringleader? Class prez, Kiryu said nonchalantly. The teachers often compare this class with a circus, hence the ringleader. I have no idea why. She lied as naturally as she breathed. But we roll with it. When life give you lemons, squeeze the fuck out it right back at life, Issei shrugged. You like it? It's short and sweet. Like my dick. Tyanary. Irina yelped immediately. But Sarah Fall muttered. Are you girls sure? What if I'm not as interesting as Mao Xiaozhou Leviathan? No one in this class is as interesting as Mao Xiaozhou Leviathan, I can tell you that much. Irina said flatly. Yeah, you're one to talk, Miss Nightblade of the Shadow Garden. Irina glared at Issei. Shut up. Issei returned her glare with a smug grin, before returning to the point he was trying to make. Point is, Ms. Idol, you're part of the pit. All 24 of us are one big family here, as some bald American human would have said in this very situation. Can't believe he isn't an ogre though. Or a cyclops. Right? Ingvild then responded to Kiryu, her voice airy. He's all bald and buff and stuff and looks angry all the time. Can you believe the rock isn't actually made of rocks? That's racist, Vivi. Irina pointed out, then glaring at Issei. Hyoudou Issei, I'm blaming this on you. While Ingvild looked genuinely horrified, Issei, her former mentor, just shrugged. I can't be racist. I make fun of every race equally. Including my own. As they chatted amongst themselves, Sarah Fall paused, and all around her were warm, welcoming smiles and laughs. None of them held any fake or hidden notions behind it. Just normal people chatting and laughing at things they wanted to laugh at. I see. She muttered, her eyes lining with tears. Thanks. And Sarah Fall dropped her fake forcibly cheerful accent, dropping her idol mask and unveiling her true self, a shy if somewhat awkward girl, whose only wish was to feel what it's like to have real friends. Sorry for being so high-strung. It's just how I've been in the past. Well, as long as I can remember, actually. Aye, you can talk in a room voice. Issei declared, wearing his goofy smile as Sarah Fall started to giggle, happily wiping away her tears. Oh gosh, my mascara. Here you go, cheesecake. The Cambion then drew out a small pack of Kleenex, being prepared for this kind of thing since Irina used to get emotional herself. And never bothered to bring her own tissues, damn half-angel. Irina instantly melted and pulled her new neighbor for a hug. Ugh. Don't worry about it, sister. Big hug. Big hug. No. Sarah Fall sniffled, giggling nonetheless. You're gonna make me cry even harder. Then the girls squealed and they all huddled up together in a hug, and Kiryu was about to run away before Murayama dragged her into the pile. A girls' only group hug. Issei exclaimed, mind if I squeeze in? Back off, Issei, Kate yipped, the class bunny feeling 10 times braver in a group and far from Kuroka or Tobio. This is the girls' territory. Go date your friend. Aizen-kun. I like your name. I think it's cool. Keep our leader safe, okay? Xenovia responded with a silent nod. The girls thought he was just being shy and automatically chalked 1 point to the cute new kid. Teach, he clicked his tongue, but didn't press the issue since he was just fucking around anyway. Alright rookie, that's our cue to get out of here. Why? Oh, Xenovia muttered, then cleared her croaky throat. She had been wondering to herself if she should tell him that she was a girl, but then again she didn't want this, whatever this thing she had with the class leader to simply change. She regretted not saying it earlier, but Xenovia feared she would be treated just the same way she was treated in her old school. Being one of the few Dullahan girls who were cursed with a large bust, rendering her unable to fit in her school's armor unless she wrapped her chest tightly, Xenovia had always regretted the fact that she was born a girl. She could have been much stronger if she was born a boy. It wasn't a matter of gender, just a plain fact that male Dullahan were stronger and more sturdier than the girls. Sure, she ran faster and she was the best girl in her year, topping every subject and competition. Until that very day. She hit her opponent square in his shoulder, a perfect hit, yet he stayed firm on his steed. His thrust wasn't perfect. The tip of the blunted lance missed by a whole inch, but he had more power and twice as big and heavy than her. With one imperfect blow, Xenovia found herself staring at the skies the moment she came to, and that she had lost the challenge that she, herself, initiated. Just because she wanted to prove to everyone that hard work could beat natural talent. But no. Reality refused to bow before her will. Her opponent was simply stronger. Her hard work had amounted to nothing simply because she was a girl. Losing that joust shattered every piece of her pride. Her mother took her away, flew to a different continent because Griselda Corda knew Xenovia needed a fresh start. And now she got that fresh start. New school, new faces, new classmates, none of them knowing she was a girl. It was everything she thought she needed. To restart her life and experience what it would be like to be respected as a boy. Yet after hearing his short speech, she couldn't help but admit that for the first time in her life, wished these kind people knew that she was a girl. But now it was all too late. If she told them now, then she'd have betrayed their trust and all the interactions she had with them. She was terrified of being seen as weird for hiding her true identity, then being laughed at and ridiculed for trying to be someone that she wasn't. So all she could say to him as they walked out the classroom was, "Lead the way." Issei halted their tour as he sniffed some tears. As he glanced down, he noted the new guy had a bit of red in his eyes. You crying? Want me to fetch Kiryu's tissues? They're clean. Kinda. They just had something in my eyes, lied the Dullahan. Every bit the noble knight ain't ya? He laughed as he ruffled the flock of blue hair. Real men cry, you know. Being sentimental ain't nothing to be ashamed about. Chicks dig sentimental men too, which is a pretty nifty bonus, eh? But not a pussy. Big difference there. I'm not crying. I know. I'm just saying, he flippantly said, taking out a handkerchief out of his sweatpants pocket, dark blue with Norse pattern and golden lines, and promptly slapped it over the new guy's chest as he gave the guy nods to his classmates and schoolmates. Though surprised, Xenovia managed to catch it, thanks to her quick reflexes. What's this for? I'm just letting you see Irina's late birthday gift to me, which was the reason why he bothered bringing this kind of adult accessory to show he knew how to be grateful. And test if it works as intended and won't give my face a rash. Xenovia quietly wiped her eyes and just as quickly returned the hemmed square of thin yet soft fabric. It works perfectly, she murmured. Thanks. Don't mention it. Yo Issei. Fresh meat? No. Chromosomes, you know it? My name is Chrome Crutch. What I said. Keeping her head low, Xenovia quietly watched him as she walked next to him, silently admiring how many people seemed to know him and spared at least a nod of acknowledgement whenever he passed. It was as if the entire floor had at least talked to him once or heard of his name. She felt like she was a knight accompanying a monarch that was well loved by his people. No, the court jester. People feared or respected their kings, or both. None of these people feared Issei or held him with high regards. He was a part of them, not above or below. Perhaps court jester wasn't the right title to describe her new leader. People laugh at the court jester, not laugh with him. Hyoudou Issei was, so to speak, a type of person she had never met before. And this was the moment where Xenovia Corda first felt how it felt to like somebody. But of course, Xenovia being Xenovia and completely inexperienced in romance, she seamlessly mistook her feelings as a growing sense of admiration. Though she couldn't understand why her cheeks felt warmer for no apparent reason. Must have been the cold. Speaking of oblivious, Captain Oblivious here led the new kid down the hall, telling him the bits and bobs of the current floor, where certain classes would be held, what classes went where, the clubs and whatnots. Issei thought to himself as he recalled a piece of his memories. Back to his first day at elementary school, being the sick kid who joined the class late in the first semester, completely clueless and friendless. A fish out of water. A monkey out of a circus. Then some glasses-wearing snotty brat hit him in the nose in an accident during playtime. Issei didn't remember if he was in pain or in shock, but that kid cried louder than an air raid siren. He screamed and ran to the teacher, believing he had just accidentally murdered his classmate since his nose was bleeding. Motohama became his best friend from that day on. Issei wondered if that was what started his trend, being unable to leave this fish out of water alone, but the pit had always been a rather welcoming pond with various fishies. Some might be flashier than the others, some with weird spots and colors. Some might have been kicked out from another pond or simply couldn't adapt to the water and their previous environments. Misfits, as some would say. But the pit welcomes all. Regardless of their shape and size, preferences, backstories, and undertakings. Regardless of what family they came from, an ordinary Joe or a noble from a distant kingdom. Though not every single one of them, more than half of the pupils there were once misfits, teens that couldn't exactly settle in as easily as their friends. The not-so-ordinary people who thought the world was simply too foreign in so many ways, that they felt as though they were a piece of a jigsaw puzzle that must cut a piece of themselves for the sake of fitting in. But they didn't need to cut or add parts of themselves, because the pit wasn't a picture puzzle, it was a circus. Whatever the teacher thought or believed about Class 4A, Issei was pretty damn proud to become a part of the pit, as its dweller and its honorary ringleader. Better to be a misfit than one size fits all. Good morning. Hyoudou Issei here. I'm a Nephilim, but the good kind. I'm every bit an ally of justice, and I am one of the few girls in Class 4A that has remained devoted to staying in the path of the light. At least, I'm trying, okay? I'm doing my best here. There's one surreptitious succubi in my class and a Cambion is my best friend, and they both refuse to stop trying to cram my impure head with pure thought, pure head with impure thoughts. My dad is an angel and my mom is a human. High school sweethearts who stayed as sweethearts all the way to the aisle. They kept being lovey-dovey when they had me, and I've never seen or heard them fight in my 18 years of being their daughter. Granted, my mom is an angel both body, heart and soul, and my dad is one of those hopeless romantics that wants nothing more than a loyal wife he can devote his heart to live a perfect romantic life. It helps that he becomes a pastor. The Protestant one, because Catholics get hissy at the possibility of preaching our Lord and Savior's grace while being married for some reason. Sure, it's lovely to be able to devote your every being to Jesus and such, but never in the Bible is it mentioned that thine must turn down a loving woman, who is beautiful as she is kind. Well, religions created by humans have always been a bit weird, and they are one of the ancient. She also happens to live in a shrine with her cousin, Himejima Akino, a half-fallen angel and half-succubus who I never get to meet. But Kiryu said she had her eyes on Issei because he got along well with the former members of the Occult Research Club. She's a half-fallen angel and half-succubus. That's like double the bad news. Thanks, Issei, you joker. He really is the Joker. In card terms, I mean not the sociopathic DC villain. Issei is like a wild card that can go anywhere without looking out of place. Invioled is in that club. She loves everything horror. There's this one time we watched the scariest movie I've ever seen, made in Thailand, and when everyone was screaming from the jump scare, including all of the boys except Issei and Naofumi because they're weirdos who are immune to horror, Invioled just went, oh, there she is. I was wondering how she looks like. She's as adorable as a baby panda, but she frightens me sometimes. Her drawings are pretty disturbing too, to say the least. Not that it's gory or anything that extreme, let's just say she can expertly draw creatures that look like eldritch creatures. But she can draw cute things too. Her doodles are adorable, and fill up a whole page of her notebook. Moving along. Chiba Erica, or Erica, is a harpy. Though you can't tell instantly because like me, we have to keep our wings folded inside our back. Don't ask how it works. I've no idea myself. And when I asked my dad about it, he just shrugged and said, and I quote, "Dad has no clue. Must be one of God's mysterious ways." I just sort of accepted it because who am I to question God? Back to Erica. She is pretty, as is her short, wavy strawberry red hair. Her voice ranges from sexy sultry alto, according to the boys, when she's making fun of someone to high-pitched shriek when she's angry at someone. She's part of Kuroka's gang of Biko and Lilim, mainly because of her not one-step-back boyish attitude that meshed well with our class resident troublemakers. She's openly admired by the girls because of her cool big sister energy, in contrast to Kuroka, who is just a straight-up flirty cat and generally more of a doting big sister rather than a cool one. She's sort of the, what is it called again? A problem kid? Someone with attitude? Something like that? Delinquent. That's the word. And the reason is, where's Issei? Irina jumped on her seat, tossed out of her inner monologue as a black-haired boy with pale skin and black jacket barged into the classroom, alerting the only remaining girls in there who were having a peaceful time. He gasped for breath, not used to running this far. Or running in general. Kuroka was the first to reply because she had been cruelly yanked out of her nice dreamland of sardine and catnips. Hey, quiet. Some minions trying to sleep here? Watani Nofumi winced and physically jerked back. He had gotten over his fear of girls, all thanks to the boys and the girls of this class, and they might see Kuroka as cute or adorable or whatever adjective they want to describe the black cat, but Naofumi was intimidated by her the most. No thanks to Kuroka angrily glared at him when he accidentally bumped into her little sister. Chiron was too short and Naofumi wasn't paying attention since he was sleep-deprived. That little incident caused Hyoudou Issei to buy him a bottle of melatonin, and Naofumi never had any sleeping problems ever since, and marginally got better in terms of physicality. He still felt sluggish during sunny days, nevertheless. Kuroka could be a bit scary when angry. JG's, Iwafumi. You nearly made us all spill our meal. Murayama growled as Kate, sitting next to her in their makeshift picnic table, had her half-flopped ears completely unfolded, its soft fur frizzing up. She didn't shout at him, however, since Murayama already handled that. Hello, Mr. Naofumi. Are you okay? Me bad? And hi, Vivi. I'm okay, thanks. Naofumi stammered, looking apologetic and waving at Ingvild as he nodded, but then he scowled as this was an urgent situation and these girls failed to see that. Wait a minute, where's that? Calm down, take it easy, Mr. Dark Hero, Kiryu said calmly, already having a picture in her head as to why the class quiet kid was this nervous. Someone probably got themselves into trouble again and he scrambled all the way here instead of using his cell phones to call someone. Typical of vampires and dampiers and their old-fashioned ways. This is what you get for staying too long in the dark. Take a deep breath, she continued, and tell us why you're looking for the clown. Doing just so, Naofumi breathed a long exhale as he told the girls, It's Chiba. Nobody was surprised. Except Sarah Fall. Of course it's Chiba, Kiryu sighed. Where and who is she fighting at? The back of the OSB. With Apophis. Naofumi gasped, short on breath. Damn it. Why did I even go that far? Then he remembered. He was weaseling away from Rapthalia, who wouldn't stop trying to feed him with stuff because she saw Kazuma was being fed by his new girlfriend. That damn raccoon girl. Grab a seat, Count Chocula, Kiryu then ushered. You look like you just ran a marathon. I might as well have. Where's Sissy? Relax, Batman. I'm texting him now, she replied, one-handedly typing a message that said Chiba versus Apophis. This be. Oh, alright. Naofumi wheezed, dropping to an empty seat, still unable to catch his breath. Thanks. Next time, consider using your own phone. There was a moment of silence, followed by a whacked as the damper introduced his face to his palm. Kiryu cackled like a clucking hen, amused. Kiryu the Cambion and Issei the clown shared a glaring similarity whenever they laughed. Same, quiet hehets that eventually grew into the sound of a car starting if it was funny, then a honking goose if they found it hilarious. That, or the gremlin-like cackle for when they were making fun of people. Depending on the situation. Isn't this bad? Sarah Fall worryingly asked, looking around, looking absolutely lost that nobody seemed to mind. And what's OSB? Old school building, Irina answered, not feeling a sense of urgency as this happened on a weekly basis. Last Friday, Erica got into a scuffle with one of the dragons next door for calling herself a chicken. Today's probably the continuation. Yeah. Kate and Murayama nodded and muttered in unison. Murayama had finished her meal of cube beef while Kate was nibbling on her boiled carrot like a hamster. Sarah Fall still didn't understand their blasé response. Shouldn't we help? It's fine. Class Prez has it handled, assured Kiryu as the girls nodded. Hey as well. You'll get used to it, new kid. It was at that moment Sarah Fall thought to herself, am I with the bad guys? But where's Chib Chib? Dunno, Biko replied, loud enough for his voice to pierce the background noises of the large school cafeteria as he gulped down a French fry dipped in the broth of his noodle-less bowl of ramen. I went here with Lilim. The mature-looking girl next to him shrugged her innocence on the matter. Lilim was an authentic succubus through and through. Elven ears, voluptuous and a perfect hourglass figure, buxom bust, black lips with a permanent devilish smile. A depraved beauty, yet a peerlessly beautiful woman, wrapped in a curves-emphasizing set of black sweater with a thick black furred collar with an exposed cleavage. Her perfume emanated a pleasing aroma of sinful temptation. No boys or men, regardless of age, shall look away the moment their eyes meet her pair of black slit pupils in orbs of luscious yellow. Of course, if every male student in this school wasn't lusting after her body, then she had done something terribly wrong. Which was why it frustrated her greatly when this virgin Issei kept rejecting her advances, no matter how bold. She must make her move soon, lest that devil Roygun snatched away her prey. He was the ultimate prize for all succubus and cambion alike, a healthy and popular virgin. The rarest of virgins. She could smell the same sweet scent of chastity from the new kid too, except his was oddly fruity. Strange. Fruity would imply he was a girl. A man's scent would be muskier, delectably rich like cinnamon. Perhaps Xenovia hadn't been fully honest to the class? He might be a fun toy to torture. But for now, to suck up her saliva and finish her actual ramen with thick broth. She wouldn't allow it to get cold before it filled her belly. Lilim loved warm, thick liquid, in case you couldn't tell. Issei shrugged, unaware of the succubus' inner thoughts and desires since he wasn't a superhuman with sin radar. He was, however, a speedy eater with the appetite of a normal person, because he used to think of eating as a waste of time when he could be flipping skirts. 3 years ago, anyway. One head slap she's kneeing someone in the nads. Deal. The monkey shook the extended hand, smiling smugly as the bet was made. You're gonna regret this. Did you forget already? With his plate's contents had been thoroughly devoured, Issei reclined against the bench and idly rested his left hand on its new favorite spot, Xenovia's hair. Said Dullahan was scanning the area for danger, only to stiffen and guiltily lowered her head, shyly enjoying her leader's treatment towards her. During their earlier tour, Xenovia was this close to start referring to him as Master, the highest form of trust that all Dullahan must consider thoroughly, as simply throwing the title to anyone would diminish its meaning. Everyone knew about him, and everyone had their faces brightened when they saw him. She believed Hyoudou Issei was truly a king without a kingdom. And she couldn't help herself to ask him about it. Hyoudou-san. Hi. Hyoudou, Issei said as flatly as possible. Sup, rookie? Want another serving of shrimp tempura? It's my treat still, so if you want the chance to drain my wallet, this might be your only day. If he says no, can I? No. Biko sniffled, devastated to know that his Biko had sunk before it even managed to leave the harbor. Woe is he? No thanks, hi. Xenovia muttered, nodding to show her appreciation to his generous offer. Might I be frank and ask you a question? Why'd you want to be frank? Xenovia's a more unique name, you know. His delivery caused Lilim to choke on her broth and Biko to laugh at her. Satisfied with his friend's reaction, Issei stared at the earnest Dullahan of his that just couldn't yet register a joke. But sure, you can ask me a question. Is it my phone number? No. Xenovia responded flatly, and Biko slapped the table as he laughed at Issei's face. Are you all right? Don't worry about him. His monkey side is acting up. I see. Xenovia nodded, accepting it as fact. To put simply, I observed that the majority of students here, notwithstanding their gender, are aware of who you are. It's one thing to be known by the teachers, but every student? How do you do that? You're not even the top of the classroom in terms of ranking and intellect. Biko erupted. I like this guy even more already. Damn rookie. You got some sharp tongue, you know that? Issei said, ruffling her blue hair with a little bit of more force than usual, turning it into a mess of cowlicks and several curled-up locks. Xenovia furrowed her brows, more concerned about her tongue rather than the chaotic state of her hair. Do I? My tongue seemed ordinary. Really? Well, why don't you stick it out? Fully entrusting him with this impromptu tongue inspection, Xenovia stuck out a bit of her tongue, barely reaching her chin. Maya! And she yelped in surprise as Issei slapped it with a finger, hurriedly lowering the tone of her voice from that embarrassing noise she made. WH, why did you do that for? You reap what you sow, rookie, Issei said, wiping his index finger with a tissue. See what I meant about him, Lim? I can see why you like him, Lilim replied, darkly chuckling under her breath. He's so honest, so gullible, so deliciously corrupt. I almost pity him that you brought him to our group. Oh yeah. Oh. Are you kidding me? Compared to this? Hey, what did I do? Biko whined, once again a victim of a blameless crime. Existing, Lilim muttered without missing a beat. Kuroka said the same damn thing. Great minds think alike, Issei completed, then turning back to Xenovia to deal with his question. So, what were you saying again? Xenovia blinked, confused by their entire banter. So, brutishly informal. Like savages. I was wondering as to why everyone seems to know you, Mast. I mean to say Hyoudou, nothing else. Mast? Matsuda? You know him? Who? Never mind, Issei sighed, burying his hope, flipping the bird at Lilim who was giving him a condescendingly pitying look. You're putting me way up on a pedestal, newbie. It's next to impossible for me to know every single kid here. The school has like, what? 1,000 students? And majority of those are in the elementary or mid-school, and I can tell you for sure I've no idea of any of those kids. Biko made a face. What about little Milikas? Well yeah, but he's Ria's nephew. Still know him, Lilim shrugged. Issei conceded. True. I didn't mean everyone in general, Xenovia then continued, unsatisfied with the answer. Merely the high school students alone. I kept track of how many people greeted you or waved at you. Seriously? Biko and Lilim exchanged a glance with each other, stating, this new kid is mental. Well, how many? Issei wheedled, now curious himself. 75. And he was satisfied with the outcome, jutting out his bottom lip as Lilim also nodded in approval. Not bad. Not bad indeed, Mr. Worldwide, purred Lilim, leaning in. And I can tell for certain at least 1/4 of those are succubuses such as myself. Just say the word let me guide you along the path to adulthood. I swear I'll give you a night impossible to forget. Tempting as it is, Lilim, Issei leaned in as well, his eyes level with hers, both their lips grinning. I refuse to bed anyone that is just going to share a bed with another. I'm a selfish guy, why? How boringly human. And you are entirely depraved. Monopolizer, Lilim jabbed. Issei dodged and delivered a right hook. 19-year-old cougar. I bet I can't even feel it. That happens if hole too big. You certainly have no idea. We can be perfectly snug at all times. Lilim frowned. Coward. Leg spreader. Virgin. Slut. I've hunted you down for the last 2 years, Hyoudou, she hissed. This is our last year, but it'll be the year. I've waited far too long for you. You're admitting you've been chasing me? For the past 2 years? Of course, Lilim smirked. It was during your sophomore year when you caught my attention. She tittered a sultry giggle, thinking she had finally got him where she wanted. Humans were so easily swayed with a little show of patience. What? With all your activity with the Occult Research Club despite not being a member? And that whole shtick you had with our dear senior, Himejima Akino? I just know I must have your first, no matter the cost. Thus I waited, and I waited. I took a gamble and it paid off. Your popularity only soared since, and yet you remain chaste. Xenovia had no idea what she was talking about, but it seemed serious and personal, so she respectfully stayed away from it, keeping her eyes out for troubles instead. You're as ripe as you can be. All I have to do is convince you to finally fall on my hands. His face was flat at first, as if blankly thinking for a moment. Then he raised a single eyebrow. You waited. For 2 years. Of course, Lilim smiled. The longer the wait, the sweeter the fruit, no? Lilim. Be honest with me. That depends on your question. Are you in love with me? No. The temptress widened her eyes and pulled away, a furious scarlet color growing embarrassingly apparent across her pale white cheeks. Me? Fall in love? And with you out of all people? Never. Who do you think you are, you callow bastard? Don't get ahead of yourself. Gotcha now ya bastard, Issei smirked. How to counter a succubus tease. Pretend as if they're in love with you, and be as cheesy as possible that people might think you're turning yellow. And not because you happen to be Asian. It'd freak them out like spraying water at cats, as was proven by this very moment. You sure? He probed, unsurprisingly enjoying this more than he'd expected. I mean, a succubus on a dry spell for 2 years is quite the dedication. I can't say I'm not touched by the gesture. No. Why, you're mistaken. Lilim panicked, wary if there was any other succubus nearby. She couldn't be their laughingstock, she's their queen. I waited because I was using it to trick you. Ha. Hiatus. My patience is merely a tool. Nothing more than a display to gain your humanly admiration that I, Lilim, descendant of the great Lilith, had willingly allocated several years of my life in pursuit of my desire. Which is me. Yes. Sounds like a confession. No. Lilim wailed, her cheeks getting redder and hotter that she had to cover them with her arm. Nonsense. You're spewing nothing but nonsense. I am not in love with you or anyone. Never in 1,000 years. I am the embodiment of lust and desire, my mother. Forget about your mother or your heritage or whatever dark castle you spawned in, Issei said pointedly, almost like a sudden thrust of a dagger as he grabbed her by her wrist, yanking her. I'm more interested about you. 2 years is a long time, you know? You must be thirstier than a polar bear in a desert. You held back that long for me? Lilim swallowed her spit, her mouth opening and shutting because no words seemed willing to come out from her throat. All the while her mind was screaming at her, what's going on? What's happening here? Why is she so distraught? This doesn't make any sense. He is not making sense. You're just making up bullshit and saying it as though they're facts. What? The fact that you are in love with me or... I am not, she insisted, but she could feel her heartbeat pounding against her chest. No, this isn't right. This can't be happening. Try looking at me in the eyes and give it to me straight, Issei demanded. If he didn't go this far, then he'd just have to deal with this again in the future. Might as well close the door and lock it. He liked being friends with Lilim, but she could get annoying with her constant, let's have casual sex. Come on, tell me you don't love me. I don't need to prove you anything. I know my feelings. Well then look at me. Should be easy if that's the case, right? Lilim raised her tan yellow eyes to meet his, and became infuriated with herself because of how smug he appeared and how much of a wreck she had become. I don't. Issei looked like a father patiently waiting for his daughter's first word. Oh, almost there. I don't love you, Lilim yelled, catching the eyes of the many students who had been staring at them for quite a while, invested in the high school cafeteria drama. Issei, I don't love you. I'm not in love with you, not with anyone. What a pity. Issei patted the back of her hand before letting go. Guess I'll try my luck with Roigun-sensei then. Do as you wish. Lilim pursed her lips. By the first succubus, Lilith, whether intentional or not, he had set fire to her desire. She'd pull down her sweater and tempt him to take her right here, right now, if she wasn't so concerned about getting expelled as public indecency was one of the strictest laws. For succubi and incubi, obviously. But he had embarrassed her in front of many, and Hyoudou must pay. She'd have to make him beg for her touch. She must make him crave for her body. Just her body. As a testament that lust trumps love if it becomes desperate enough. Just you wait, hey, Lilim smiled, delirious. I'll make you wish this day never happened. Issei rolled his eyes. And now for the nail in the coffin. So, you want to go out with me? Fine. Issei shut his eyes. What? I said, fine. Lilim spat, venomously mad. Once you're done playing with that devil, I'll show you how horrible of a mistake you've made for ever making me cross with you. I will make you lust over me so completely in a single day that there is no way for you to escape from my grasp. Trust me, Hyoudou. By the time we're over, you'll come crawling to me. A game? Well, he already had an active one with Roigun, and he did swear to himself to just go full balls deep during his last year. Tormenting this cheeky seductress might be fun. Alright. Okay, alright, he nodded, mostly to himself. And if I last that entire day without wanting to dry hump your leg, you'll never bother me again? Never. I swear on Lilith's name. But the poor girl. She had no idea how his resolve had steeled over 2 years of being Himejima Aquino and Rias Gremoris Cute Jr. They had tempted him to hell and back again. Issei believed it was thanks to their weekly tests that he had toned down his perversion substantially, because he liked to win on this sort of thing. Beating them in their own game might as well be his fetish. Alright, Issei smiled. You got a deal. I'm going back to class. You best prepare yourself, Hyoudou. Today will be the last day of your freedom. Lilim stood up, her hands crossed, and walked away. His week just got twice as interesting. Don't forget Kuroka's Hojicha. Yeah. Lilim shouted, dismissively throwing an arm back. What the hell, man? Biko blurted, abjectly impressed now that he finally counted the total number of second-year seniors, which was 24 times 4. That's like more than half of the guys in our year. Yeah. It seriously took you that long to count that? The entire school is watching me and Miss Fuck Me Eyes over here, and you're still on that topic? What? I'm not a calculator. And she was shouting, so I mentally tuned her out. Holy hell, Biko. Sometimes, I don't know if I should be impressed by your carefreeness or your stupidity. The monkey simply shrugged. Why not both? Well, and suddenly another voice. Directly left to him. Well, what? You haven't answered my question, Xenovia straightforwardly replied. Whatever happened earlier was none of her concern. Dullahan was not trained to handle a lover's quarrels. Of course someone like him must have several mistresses. It was a normal thing. It'd be strange for a man of his repute to not have any. Issei blinked, blissfully unaware of Xenovia's train wreck of a thought. You had a question? Yes? I asked you how you were widely renowned across this establishment. Right, muttered Issei, in awe of these 2 special breeds of idiots. Thing is, I've been in this school for 4 years, and I know all sorts of people, so that certainly helps. Sometimes I meet them when they're with a friend, a sister, a brother, and then I meet their friend, sister, or brother, and have a chat with them. And so. I see. You must have a wide connection. Yup. You sound disheartened. Nope. Just lowering my expectations a few bars, that's all, he said, sighing as he felt a vibration in his right pocket. He drew out his phone, read Kiria's text, and gave Biko a slap to his head. Oh, what was that for? Erica's tussling with Apophis again. Probably called her a duck or a chicken or something, informed Issei as he stood up. Take him with you, ite monkey? Ciao. Damn it. Fuck's sake, Erica. Biko grunted, rubbing his forehead, cursing his luck as well as Erica. That troublemaker? Well, you heard the man. Let's go, newbie. Where are you going? Xenovia sputtered. I'm supposed to protect you. I'm protecting you right now, so no can't do, said Issei as he started to walk away, jogging towards one of the exits of the cafeteria that led to the nearest path to the old school building. Protecting me? What does he mean? Xenovia looked at Biko expectantly, demanding clarification. You're the new kid. Of course he's looking out for you. We can't let you wander anywhere near a fight on your first day. A fight? Hey, don't scream that, you'll draw attention from the teachers. My apologies. Xenovia shrunk herself to be as small as possible. But shouldn't we go with him then? Isn't he our leader? With Hyoudou Issei? Nah, Biko laughed. Believe me, he's done this. A lot. Even though he's little muscle in him? Ah. You said it, and the monkey laughed louder, standing up and dragging the fresh blood along with him. Lucky him, he doesn't need muscles to break up a fight between a bird and a dragon. Jew is teasing your rookie. You really do scream like a girl, don't you? Boy, is Vivian for a treat. Emma asked our class rep to set up a movie night soon. Movie night? Yeah. A night where we watch movies in someone's house, hitherto, movie night. Hopefully at Vivi's. She's got a huge house and a home theater. Her aunt is nice too, a sexy chocolate devil, Kiki. How long will this activity take? Probably from 9 until the next morning. But won't you require sleep at a certain point? Biko's stare was blank as he kept leading the way. walking up the first floor stairwell. Well, man, I know you were bad, but I didn't know you're this bad. We're gonna have a buttload of work to do, Zenin. There is a small blue floating rock, swirling and whirling around a pretty sizable burning gas.
Okay, sadly the chapter is over. And if you enjoyed, just leave a like and subscribe with post notification, so when the next chapter is ready, you will be notified. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye.